Start this too?
Okay. All right. Here we go again. So it looks like we have missed a public hearing for the C2. But that won't be a public hearing because we already had a public hearing. So,
We have, I didn't realize it got on the agenda that way when you and I spoke this morning, so we'll just want to clear through Liam, the idea that we don't need to have one. If it turns out wants us to have one because maybe people turn out or whatever, he may ask you to poll the audience or whatever. If that's the case, you may want to just have one quick and open and close and move on, but if not, you could probably just cancel it.
All right. Okay, sounds good. So the two, now we'll go back up to the top. The minutes look good. At least they did to me.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we've got the two administrative items that were pretty straightforward. I don't know, is there anything special about those? Any questions or anything special we need to know before the meeting on those?
Not really. We've got two guys coming for this design review over on Real Long Life in the M1 zone. And so they should be able to answer some questions if you guys have some more. So they plan on getting up first and just doing a quick intro. And I've got a few slides I'd like to present. You know, so I'll cover some landscaping, just general information as far as access and parking.
That's all administrative, so.
Is, yeah.
Pretty much.
So on that one, one question I have, Nick, and I can wait till the meeting to see it, but I couldn't figure out where the building sat on the lot.
Okay, yeah, with the site plan, it's a little hard to see that.
I probably noticed it.
But, and that's okay. I mean, like I said, we can.
Oh, you do. See what?
Is this lot completely empty? There is one building existing there, isn't there?
Yep, there is one building. And one of my slides, I actually have a pretty good picture that will help you to see.
Because I was kind of.
All right, that'll work.
Oh.
That's what they showed to the design, and also it's only one option.
Right.
Super long building.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, pretty straightforward on that. I can't think of anything like special, or unique about this that has changed since,
I did.
you know, what's actually shown in the report. So I think the report pretty well covers that information.
Thanks. Any questions on that one? Okay. Well, then. Tammy.
Yeah, the next one, Nate Christensen is the applicant. He's proposing a 23,000, almost 24,000 square foot, fabrication or manufacturing building. He's got some good looking elevations actually for manufacturing zone. His landscaping plan, which he hadn't submitted yet, he's doing xeriscape. So he's in the process of subdividing that lot. Felix actually has them. I'm not sure if they've recorded yet or if they're about to record. But they've got a restricted landscape covenant anyway that's getting recorded to that. And with the soil conditions out that far around 80th West rather. He's not looking to do any live plants.
Is there soil out there or just salt?
So I did let him know though,
Yeah.
that prior to written approval of his design review, which he needs for building permit, he does have to submit that xeriscape plan just so we can look at it and include it as part of the application for design review and make sure that that is held to when he goes through building permit.
Questions on that one? Hey, these look like places that are gonna create jobs, I understand. I'm good with it. I mean.
Yeah.
It's good to see.
Oh, and all that's in our general plan too, right?
Yeah.
So. Good job.
No, well, hopefully that's what the general plan's for.
Yeah.
We hope.
Thanks. Then. So. Felix, on the C2 rezone, we tabled it. We'll talk to Liam about how we want to cover the meeting. But did they come back with anything? What, I mean, you have something that we need to talk about now? You wanna wait for
Yeah.
the meeting? And what did they come back with?
Yeah, so we got together with the owner
Mhm.
and, John Price was in that meeting as well, so Charlie and I. And
Well, that one, but go ahead.
I think we've come up with a pretty good solution.
I think John Price is the buyer.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
and we're talking about the John Price from, okay. Okay,
I like
I
that.
wanna make sure it's the same one. It's a little bit of a common name.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we got together and we hashed out some details, how to, take care of some of the complaints that were brought up by the public as far as, code view triangle. And some of those non-conforming buildings that are pushed up right up close to the road. Anticipating that when UDOT comes in and actually start to acquire right of way and do these widening projects to these roads. I mean, it's a corner lot, so you can expect some of that lot's gonna be eaten up by right of way dedication, roadway improvements and things like that, so. What we've done is we've put together some recommendations for the planning commission that should be included with the development agreement. And so the memo that's provided in the packet, there's actually page 2 of that memo. It goes into, what those standards would look like in the development agreement. And covers, it covers the right of way width. It covers the non-conforming buildings. And those setbacks that they're working from. But it also gives the owner a little bit of some opportunity to actually get some value out of those structures while they still remain in place. And also, if it turns out that those hard improvements are needed in certain areas, that then maybe there's a need for those structures to be demolished or a portion of the structures. Then there would be some fair compensation for the owner in that circumstance.
And those only come from UDOT? Or,
It would be both.
so one of those roads is UDOT and one of them is county, is that the deal? And so the county would have to purchase their right of way? Is that,
Possibly.
Possibly.
It depends. If they're the ones, so the way that we're putting it together, if they're the ones who are proposing to tear the building down and replace it, whatever new building needs to go in the correct location, and they've got to dedicate the right of way.
and they have
So,
to dedicate,
that'll be
but
on
as
them.
long as the building is existing.
Yep.
Then it stays, and if the county wants to purchase it sooner, then they're willing to demolish it
Yep.
and to dedicate the right of way, so it's just. Whichever one comes first, timing wise, okay.
But yeah, and the first way they are making a choice, right, to develop the property a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Most of the time it comes with more impact and all that, so exacting right away and even exacting hard improvements at that time makes a lot of sense.
But before then,
We wouldn't be able to do any kind of that exaction here because taking right of way and taking improvements, we wouldn't be able to prove or tie it to any kind of existing increase of use on the property, or at least for those two buildings. But for the other parts of the property, we're saying
They have
those
to-
parts need to be, we'll exact and we'll get those hard surface improvements.
and
We'll get them on the part that's not currently probably.
Not directly in front of the existing building side.
so are they going to subdivide, is that what you're talking about, they're gonna subdivide the properties, so there's non-conforming properties, and then the new parcels will be conforming, is that the idea?
I don't know if subdividing is part of their plan. I mean, they could.
But if they want to build new buildings on that property, do they have to?
No, they don't have to subdivide to build new buildings. Now, if they wanted those buildings separate ownership, yes.
Okay, if they were separate ownership, but if they have it as some sort of a rental agreement, but how would we get the hard improvements for part of the lot and not the existing? That's what I mean, like, are they creating part, I don't know.
No, it's a good question. We actually spelled it out, I think, and they've agreed to it tentatively. So the portion of, the property that doesn't have building directly fronting it, this is actually really easy because the house and the existing building is almost right on the right of way line. And it is over the right of way line for where we want that right of way line to be in the future, right? And so we could just say everything that is from this wall of the southern wall of the house to the northern wall of the shop. And the eastern wall to the western wall, anything that's along that frontage can be deferred to a later time. Unless the county or the state wants it, then we'd have to buy it, do whatever improvements we want to do. If the landowner wants to make changes, then they would need to do the dedication and install those improvements. Every other part of the frontage of those lots on 1400 and on the highway, both of those frontages would need to be brought to county standard.
And when would they need to be brought to county standard?
That's the question, because we can't, on the UDOT side, we definitely can't tell them when they're gonna start doing these things. And so what we've got spelled out is when they come in with their land use permit, and that's probably your question.
Okay,
When they come in with the land use permit or their design review, that's when dedication of those spaces will be. Now, let's say they come in and they subdivide and they're only developing a portion of it. Well, actually, technically through the subdivision, we could still get it, but for whatever reason, let's just pretend like part of it is on a different lot or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Then we would just focus on that lot with that frontage. So they come in, they put a indoor, what was he saying? Indoor soccer
At the arena, yeah.
arena, something like that, yeah. He put something like that on the property in the back corner. Everything that's out in front of that will need to be improved, or excuse me, will need to be dedicated.
okay,
If it was on 1400, we talk very hard about improvements with the engineers. If it was on 4700, we'd ask UDOT what they want. But UDOT very rarely wants all of that asphalt and all that infrastructure installed before they know what the future of that
but
road
they
is
do
gonna
want
be.
just dedication.
Dedication, yep.
Dedication.
And they don't want as much dedication as we're asking them to take. So
Okay.
that's, we're asking 132 on that road, because we think at some point in time, we have seen traffic studies that if
Mhm.
things develop out a certain way, it could potentially be a 7-lane road. So very wide, 132 is gonna be needed to do that. I don't know that UDOT's looking at things that far in advance. And for good reason, because they technically, they're strapped, they cannot ask for more than what's roughly proportionate and essentially related to the project. Whereas we can through a development group.
So essentially, whatever frontage they're accessing this building from needs to be improved or dedicated.
Yes, unless they are, yeah, using both frontages. Yeah, if the lot stays the lot, a single lot, and they build a big building in the back corner or whatever, both frontages, with the exception of the space in front of those existing buildings, will need to be dedicated.
Okay.
And at the very least, the county frontage, as long as the engineer can say drainage and all this other stuff works at that scale, will need to be built. Yeah.
Okay.
Which the seller, the existing owner, he's okay with that because he's not tearing down a building for no reason. The buyer's okay with that because he understands that you gotta improve your lot, your site if you're gonna do commercial things. So
Okay.
they seem to be okay with that if you guys are okay with that.
Okay,
I am, as long as it has enough teeth in it to get done.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
Yeah.
that's my concern.
Yep.
Because we're giving them double the size of their lot in a commercial zone. I don't have a problem with that so much as I have a problem getting back out of it what that commercial might bring there. And if we're talking about some sort of an arena or, small play field or something, it's gonna be traffic.
Yeah, so at the point that we get, where if they're doing arenas or a shopping plaza or whatever it may be. With or without a development agreement and with or without a rezone, we can tell them, you are creating this kind of impact. We had a traffic study, we know that you're gonna do this, that, we need this many parking stalls, we need this kind of, we don't want this frequent driveway accesses to the highway, we can do all those things and get, as long as it's roughly proportionate and linked to that development, we can get all that without a development agreement. And so we don't even need to have a lot of teeth in the development agreement for that. So really, in my mind, the development agreements, what do you want above and beyond? I think asking for 132-foot right of way is above and beyond. And my guess is right now, if we were to take them to task, it would probably be an 80-foot right of way max.
And what about the 1400 right away? What do you anticipate that one being?
So long-term 1400 is planned to be 80, and that's what we'll ask them for a 40-foot half width. which is, it's pretty big. It doesn't. 1,400, I don't think the 40-foot half width goes into the building, does it?
No.
I can't remember, but.
Not from the survey.
But 47 does, it's half that building goes away, if.
40 feet from is the asphalt in the right of way, in the center of the right of way now?
It's a good question.
And the reason I ask that is because there is 10 feet between the edge of the asphalt and the north wall of that building. You can't park a car there and open the
Right.
door without looking behind you, to see if a car's coming to take your door off.
We did look at that, I can't remember what the answer was.
So,
Yeah, without the exact survey line. For the center, it's really tough to say that.
right,
To
right.
give a definitive answer to that.
And the sightlines, I guess, they are now, it's before we stopped right there.
We measured sightlines, so. If the right of way went to the face of the building, that's about a 50-foot half width, if it was all pushed all the way up to the face of the building. So we measured from that perspective. So if we look at the right of way and we put the stop bar over here on 1,400 and we're looking both directions, there's a tree that's gonna need to be moved. But other than the tree, there is enough sight distance for up to a 55-mile-an-hour road, I think is what we measured that to. The tree will have to come out, but that works. If we go to 132 feet, the building's coming down anyway, so they're gonna have to design to site triangle designs at that time. So, engineers seem to be pretty okay with it. Yeah, well, as it stands right now, the cars can go way out, almost to the asphalt, and so they could see the site triangle is fine right now, as it stands.
If the tree comes out, it'll help a lot.
A lot, yep. Yep,
That tree's always been in the way.
and we're always hoping that people driving on that road are going the speed limit, but they're usually not.
And screening is all taken care of in the code. We discovered that a while ago.
Yep.
Okay.
Wayne?
Nada.
Jim? Anything on that one?
No, I'm good.
Okay, anybody else? All right. Okay,
On my paper.
Liam, on that item where it was already through the public hearing process. But it's noticed for a public hearing again. What do you want us to do?
Well, you don't have to have another public hearing, they've already had one,
And
it is noticed for it, but it doesn't have to occur, it doesn't hurt to have one. So I don't know, do you guys? Is a lot of people being there tonight?
well, there wasn't the first time, so that's kind of doubted.
So I would probably just open up the public hearing.
Especially where it was noticed. If someone came and then was turned away, that would be
Yeah.
not in the best taste, I think.
We can be critical of 3 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right, so then. Guess that, was that it? No, Halcyon.
Halcyon.
Oh, yeah, Halcyon. Okay. So Charlie and I talked earlier today and I had a couple of questions for him. He's got some things, I'll, go ahead, Charlie, you go through what we talked about earlier first and then we can get to the other.
So this is both general plan amendment and a rezone request, which will come with the development agreement. Very similar to what we did with Winston Park and with Taylor Landing. And in both cases, we required them to retrofit existing infrastructure to get street connections and pathway connections. The question for you guys is whether or not you're comfortable with the concept plan that they've proposed. That's figure 4 in your staff report. It's the same concept plan that you saw the very first time around. The difference between what they proposed the first time around, this is a few years back and now, is they are offering $7,500 per existing and proposed lot. And so they want to essentially buy their way out of the open space the same way that Winston and Taylor Landing did. Think about Taylor Landing, they didn't really buy their way out, they donated their way out. So they've got a ton of open space that they donated, plus some water shares that they donated to the park district. So these guys, you guys did have a conversation, Andrew reminded me of that with them about the possibility of getting some of the water that's assigned to the property, giving it over to the Parks District. It's worth a conversation. I totally forgot that conversation happened, so you're not gonna see anything about that in the staff report. As far as street connectivity goes, I've vacillated. When this one first came in, I said, no, we're not doing that. You're gonna connect to the cul-de-sac, you're gonna make it, that road go all the way through. And connect over through Bristol Farms, which is the old Smart Fields. development and connect straight to 4300. After this project didn't go anywhere with street connectivity, Bristol Farms, when they came in and platted, they do have streets that connect to this 10-acre piece, but the street to the north that would otherwise connect, the northernmost street in Bristol Farms would connect potentially to the cul-de-sac that's in the old Halcyon, or could connect. However, Bristol didn't make that full connection to 4300. You have to go into Bristol neighborhood to get onto an inner street before you can connect over to this 10-acre piece. So if you're thinking about that, from the old Giordano development to the dead end road that is in the existing Halcyon portion of that development, which is a cul-de-sac, if we did require that to be stubbed all the way through, connected to the west, it's still not gonna make it to 4300. You're still gonna have to get onto other neighborhood streets before you get to 4300. So if I had my druthers, we'd go back and redo all that and get the street connection going all the way to 43 without interruption. But since it's not there, I'm not sure I want to be as strict as that, but I'm also not going to tell you guys not to be. That's totally a policy question for you on your guys' side. In lieu of that street connection to the cul-de-sac, they are proposing a pathway connection. And from what I understand, they do have the adjoining landowners' consent to get a little bit of land from them to make that pathway connection work. It's a minimum 30-foot wide pathway easement. It'll run between the two lots that they're proposing and connect to that cul-de-sac directly. So at least you'll get a way to get pedestrians through, which I think is good, because if you follow that line all the way eastward, it goes through the Stagecoach Estates development all the way through Stagecoach Estates. And it has a 10-foot, actually, I think it's only 8-foot there, 8-foot wide concrete pathway on the north side of that. So between that connection, someone who's taken that concrete pathway through, once they get into Giordano, there's no pedestrian facilities. They gotta use the existing asphalt, get up through that curve, get to that cul-de-sac, and then jump on another asphalt pathway that then takes them to Bristol Farms. Once they're inside Bristol, they still have to go south to get out to 4300, but that is what it is. So,
South or north, I think you gotta go back to the north and then.
oh yeah, actually, it'd be faster to go north into Anselmi phase
And then
2.
west,
Yep.
yeah.
And Anselmi phase 2, that road is 1600 or whatever our addressing official called it. We were calling it 1600 at the time. That one does have, or will have, an asphalt pathway, but doesn't right now have one.
Who manages, are these HOAs? And who manages this pathway?
County. So that was the decision that we made when we were working on the general plan and when we were working on some of these development agreements.
That's just a little pathway to manage.
Yes.
So Charlie, I'm gonna ask that when you give the presentation, that you bring up the map. The area in Gizmo, if you don't mind,
Yep.
so that we can see the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Because the two property owners at the end of the cul-de-sac would be giving up actually nothing basically for the pathway and very little for a road. Personally, I would prefer to see the road connect, not just a pathway from that cul-de-sac.
This is the cul-de-sac with the.
I see the road, I'm a little bit concerned. I wish the road, because
Yeah.
they
it
don't
eats.
line
Yeah,
up.
it
And
eats.
so I worry about the danger of the roads being so close to each other, but not, the turning and.
If you recall staff's original suggestion, when the through connection was hopefully gonna happen, we recommended that they align those roads. So it will make some of the lots a little bit more of a funny shape, to swing the road a little bit to the south to make that connection, but.
And that swing is so tight, that's also another problem for visibility in certain.
It could be smoothed out, it's just the lot sizes will be a weirder shape. That makes sense, like
Yeah.
from the east side to the west side, they could make that connection to the stub street and to the cul-de-sac, even if it's just a very gradual curve.
Oh, I see, so do it all the way across.
Yeah, so that configuration can happen in whatever way we want. Or advise them to do it.
They won't like it.
No, they won't. So the other thing that I mentioned briefly in the staff report, just a brief mention, didn't put it in my recommendation because I don't know how much value it brings to the neighborhood, but it does bring an element of value. On their streets in the southwest corner of their development, they've got two kind of pie-shaped lots there in that southwest corner. If you guys want, we can ask them for a pathway that connects to the westernmost part of their development. And we can ask them to work with the developer of Bristol Farms to make that connection out to the street that stubs in Bristol. Now, the blocks in that neighborhood, they're pretty small as it stands, and so taking your bike and getting around that, maybe not too big of a deal. But I will say I drove through Stagecoach today, and there's a couple of little spots that we had to make connections that I thought are gonna be really good connections, especially once all those fences go up. You don't have to go around, especially if you're not from the neighborhood, you don't have to go around and figure out where you're going. It's almost very clear that you could see this is where you go if you're on a bike or walking.
I think they've done a really good job in Stagecoach.
Yeah.
Turning out really nice out there.
Yeah, the only thing I saw out there that I was concerned about is they were putting some fences up right on the property line, 6 foot tall fences right on the property line on corner lots. So we're getting with them on that. They're not gonna be happy. The new lot owners are not gonna be happy that their backyards aren't actually backyards. They're side yards. So they'll find out. But everything else over there looks really good and I was really excited to see it.
And
I just think the connectivity there is important. We've got such a mess on your side of 1800s. Not necessarily, Winston's not horrible,
you know.
but Taylor Landings is,
I think it is.
well, it's not great. But compared to Taylor Landings,
Yeah.
it is beautiful.
Yeah. you're
And I
right.
just, I'm tired of that happening. I mean. I just don't want another, sorry, Sarah, you went to Highlands out there.
No, I don't want another one in there.
And that's
We're
kind
dealing
of
with
what
it,
we're,
but
you
we can
know,
fix it, that'd be great.
that's kind of what we're, looking at on some of these things, but anyway. Okay,
So
Yes.
just a follow-up question, Eric. When you said that you really want to see that road go through the cul-de-sac, are you not wanting approval if they don't get that? Are you gonna?
well, I'm torn because you got 10 acres ground there that is going to be nothing but a mess.
Right.
Because the park doesn't want it
Right,
and
and it keeps getting built around it,
It-
it's gonna become
yeah.
harder and harder to be treated as fine.
so am I hard over on it? No, probably not, but I'd sure like to see it.
So it's funny, the cul-de-sac off of 1775, that's all built out, right? If this is,
Sorry, 1775, I gotta pull them
sorry,
up.
1775 south, there's that, it ends in a cul-de-sac when it turns. Or. That's
Yes, yep, the
all
cul-de-sac,
built out.
yes, yeah, where the elbow
That's
is.
for Halcyon is built, okay.
Yep.
Sorry, I don't know this property well. I think it's wise to well. That corner. Just what you're talking about, the pathway in the corner connecting, so the 4250, that side is. Which, that's not built out on that side yet.
Nope. The homes and all that, where that cul-de-sac is, those all exist.
On the east.
Yep, and then if you go up one street, hang on, let's talk about streets. Let's use street names here. So yeah, 1775, that is built out, and on 1725, you've got all the homes on those lots built out. But where we're talking about the possibility of a pathway between those pipe-shaped lots, there's nothing there. That's
The homes that about 4250 west are not built yet.
4250 west is not built yet.
So that's all, is that approved?
It is.
That is,
It's approved through the development agreement,
They're not flat.
and there might be a preliminary plat that's been approved. I can't remember. Felix, do you remember how far we are on
Which one?
Bristol?
okay, so that one's one.
Yeah, they've got one more phase to go, I believe.
Is there prelim done? We done with prelim on that one? Okay. Yeah, so that's the one with Bristol. It's a good time to try and get a pathway because they don't already have lots there, so they haven't already platted that. Also gonna be a little challenging, but
But they would have to essentially buy an entire lot to put.
not necessarily what we did. Well, I guess it wasn't you guys, it was the county commission. What the county commission did over in Winston is they said, this is where we want the pathway, go figure out how to get it if you want to build anything in your open space. That's what the county commissioners said to them, and they did. They went and bought 6 feet of property from one side, from one lot owner, and 6 feet of property from the other lot owner. And they're gonna run a pathway right down the middle.
We're talking about the diagonal path in the southwest corner, right?
Yep, yep.
So those are larger lots, so. Yeah.
Well, not on that side, I'm worried about the other side.
On Bristol.
Yeah, so it's.
Oh, on the, well, they could turn and come west between two of those lots. But if they're not platted yet, shouldn't be too big of a problem, right? They can go make a deal.
It's just they're very small, narrow lots, and that's my concern, is that
Yeah.
they've got the room to spare.
That's a good
That-
question.
That's my, and
Well,
it
they
might
could
be
turn,
pretty tightly,
they could turn and come south instead of going west down to 42, what is that, 4250?
in the back.
They could turn and come south and come over to 1725. And then, I mean, it's not ideal, but the lots are bigger along 1725. But they're already built
So
on.
that's the problem, yeah, they're built,
So they'd still be going down somebody's backyard.
they'd have to, yeah,
Yeah,
with a lot that's already pretty small, or what is, I think those are only like 6,000 or 7,000 square foot lots.
I don't recall, Felix, do you have access to the preliminary plat for Bristol?
Yeah. I was just built there.
What we did over on Winston is we made an agreement that said if their dedication decreases the width below the allowed standard, that we would allow that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would allow that to occur without applying the standard. So,
It's already 5 o'clock.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. I didn't know.
Sure, I'll do that.
Thank you. Thanks, sorry for being a little bit late tonight. I had a little bit of an extended pre-meeting, trying to discuss a few things before the meeting tonight. So please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Let's see, Commissioner Quants is excused for tonight's meeting. She's a victim of airline delay, flight delay. So she won't be joining us. First item on our agenda is the minutes from August 12th and September 9th and September 16th. Commissioner, any comments or concerns on those minutes? Okay. Yeah. Okay, we'll go ahead and approve those minutes. Next item on our agenda is administrative items. 2.1 ER 2025-12, request for approval on a design review application to construct 2 new buildings with parking and landscaping. Felix will present, but usually we get a director comment, but looks like you got tied up. So go ahead, Felix.
Yeah.
We'll wing it. I think we can make it.
Yeah, thank you, commissioners. Good evening. So I have a couple slides just to bring up that I can scroll through, but also I wanted to give the owner and applicant an opportunity. So if that's what how you'd like to start, I can come back up after he's done. Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
Yours.
There's,
Go ahead and give us your name and address for the record. And then
there's 1287 West Millbridge Lane, West Battlefield, Utah.
okay. And then tell us what you know about it.
Well, there's one building there. The business that's in it is called Eyelash. So I'm just taking the rest of the property and developing it for just like some office warehouse units. Possibly 9 units, but it depends on the renter. They might want to take half of something, 10 instead. And
So the existing building is the smaller building. The
in the southeast corner.
southeast corner.
Yeah.
All right. And then, so the application is just for one building, then
Two.
two buildings?
There'll be one on the north side and one on the west side, west, south, I guess.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions or comments?
I'm just noticing, so there's only 2 parking stalls available for each unit? Roughly?
There's quite a bit more.
I mean, other than the existing building with its
Right.
roof.
And then there's a whole south end that can be parking, but I don't think we did anything when it comes to a stop right down there.
That would be my only concern, depending on, I mean, you don't know the end user and so it's hard to. But there is land that could be developed for extra parking.
On the south and then the west of it. I had these plans drawn so long ago, just trying to.
And you have the hatched out area for the loading bay, I assume. Is that what that is? The dashed areas and then the striped areas? So people could park there if the loading bay isn't being used.
Yeah, I don't think I have any like loading bays or like ground level.
Oh,
trucks.
just ground level.
Or
Okay.
ground levels.
Okay. So, all right. All right, yeah, that's just my thought.
Okay.
Anyone else? All right, anything else you wanna tell us?
Nope. I think it was, had them drawn a long time, just been ready to do something finally, so hopefully it passes. All right,
Thank you.
that's it. Thank
Felix.
you.
So yeah, I'll run through a few slides and some more details and feel free to stop me and ask any questions. So this property is located corner there, 2350 north and Yulon White. Zoning in this area is M1 for manufacturing, intended for light manufacturing. And this aerial image captures kind of what exists on site now. You have a cell tower facility with some ground equipment. And that's on the kind of the west side, and then you also have that structure with some parking. And then you have also the proposal, which is to add those two new buildings. So the new buildings are shown on that proposal side, which goes with the pink line. Then you also have a little buildings. See that number of parking spaces, as well as I think this is also helpful to see the some of the landscaping that's going to be made throughout the site and along the west edge there. Okay, going on to the next slide. So some of the slides that I have prepared will cover these points in more detail. And beside where it's located in zone, as well as some of the standards that we look at during the design review process. Design review, which is required for all commercial uses, institutional uses, no matter the zone. And so let's see here. The first slide we go to is really just touching on some of the purpose and intent of the manufacturing zone. To provide light manufacturing in areas that will accommodate the need for light intensity type manufacturing. And it's associated with accessory uses, some of which may have an environmental impact, requiring public review and regulation. So you can see this, the Weaver Industrial Park there in that image. That aerial image, and it also shows its own boundary. See that this property is completely within the M1 zone. And so we wouldn't really be looking at additional setbacks if they maybe a shared, if the zone boundary is shared with the different proposals. And so that in establishing what type of setbacks to apply was something that we look at when reviewing the site. And we also look at the traffic on budding streets. The current Hemingway Street and Moulin White, those are fully built public right of way, 80-foot public right of way, so they're more kind of the industrial built for the industrial uses. And I've also highlighted some dimensions that will apply. So you've got some circles that show kind of ingress egress routes, as well as that solid red line where you would have an ingress egress from Hemingway. And the kind of the dark patch that represents asphalt. But there's also some existing asphalt and concrete around the site. So when looking at the adequacy of public parking for this, what I did is I took all the parking from the entire site. And I used that to calculate the amount of parking. Based on, 3 parking spaces per, let's see, it's. Just to make sure I'm stating this correctly. Okay, so section 108.4 specifies that a warehouse generally requires 2 spaces per 3 employees. Based on that minimum requirement, if you figure 2 spaces per unit, the total recommended number of spaces is 22 spaces. The total number of parking spaces across the existing and the new accommodations total 32 spaces. The planning commission may adjust the parking standard if they determine that an adjustment is equitable and warranted. Truck loading and unloading spaces there of right from those bay doors. And traffic circulation is another standing to consider. And surface lighting, in this case, if they don't have any proposed lighting, I would imagine once they come in for individual uses within each structure, they're gonna be required to get a land use permit for signage if they request that. So signage wasn't really part of this proposal at this time. Being those are gonna be just be vacant units for rent. And going on to the next slide. So this slide is also helpful to see kind of the existing access from Hemingway. We've got a 24-foot access on that right hand side and 23 feet wide on that left hand side. Here is the landscape plan with the plant table showing some of the improvements that are going to be made to beautify the site. Along with those new structures, you have some ground coverings and some mulch areas, as well as a variety of trees that we planted in these specified locations. Doing some calculations with the entire site in relation to type of the area that would be landscaped. This falls well below that maximum turf grass allowance, as well as the minimum landscaping for the site. So going on to building height and site layout. So the building height in these definitely aligns with what's allowed in the M1 zone. And then front yard setback from the street and the side facing the street would be that 20 feet. And rear setback 0 and interior setback 0. So this site is in conformity. The building proposal is conformed. And as far as utility and drainage, so there's a 10-foot public utility easement on the west side, and the drainage facilities are under review with the county engineering department. Their proposal is to use subsurface storm chambers for their stormwater management. And and then staff's recommendation is for approval of this request. And also that approval, approval of shall not be issued until all reviews and requirements have been met, specifically with comments from county engineering and fire district. Includes presentation. Any questions?
I'm sorry, one marking question.
Yes.
So, do you know roughly how large the existing building is? But like
The existing,
1,000 square feet or so? It says 5,000.
is it 5,000?
Oh, okay. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's from-
And I believe you said it's like a services slash.
Manufacturer lashes.
Manufactured lashes, okay.
Okay, so it's a manufacturing as well.
Yep.
And I don't know, I'm concerned, I'm still just concerned it's not enough parking where we're not sure exactly what's going to happen in these stalls. have just one employee there and one person that comes, seems a little stretched, but maybe they have extra existing building, I don't know. That's still just a concern of mine, looking at what's available, and I'm not sure how traffic or flow would be impeded if, parking became an issue. 10 units?
The way the current code is written, if a change of use comes in, they have to go back through. Either the design review or at the very least a land use permit process in order to get a business. Serious. And at that time, we would address parking based on the change in use. Is that only works if you have enough property to, put more parking in at some point in the future, if more parking is needed. But you guys do have discretion in the ordinance to ask for more if it's equity, so.
And so right now, these are proposed as warehousing units.
Yes.
So if they were used for something more manufacturing or something else where there's more personnel, then more parking would be required, but as a warehousing unit, it should be sufficient.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Well, concern about having, that's parking, which leads to traffic on Rule and White. That's a nightmare depending on shift change out there. Rule and White's very busy. It's gotten, especially with Associated Foods, all the trucks coming east. That intersection at, 2675, I believe. And Rule and White where the four-way stop is, that's detrimental. Because it's a huge intersection. And it's a four-way stop, probably at some point in time that'll have to be improved. But as you go south, it's still pretty busy, because you've got Kimberly Clark down there, that's a big employer, you got Emerson, that's a big employer. So depending on the time of day, that's a valid concern about parking on Rule and White. Now, another concern is parking going west down Hemingway. And that is, if I remember right, the Warren Rocky Mountain Power Substation is right at the end of, right?
Yep.
Next to this property.
You're right.
And so I don't know, apparently that doesn't pose any issues with the development of this property. But I know that they probably need to access that on a regular basis as well, so it doesn't leave a lot of extra street room for parking.
Yeah, I wouldn't anticipate. Well, I would assume we want all the parking to be on site, not to, not on the streets.
For sure.
So Felix, didn't you say that they would be required to have 23 stalls parking, but they're meeting at 32?
That's right, yes.
So they have more than what is required.
Yes.
Well, only for the new, that doesn't include the existing manufacturing building, parking requirements.
That's what I did, is I calculated based on the existing and new, and then so the entire site, so because if it turns out that the existing building is not utilizing every single space, then I think there's opportunity for employees on this property to use a space.
Well, it's not warehousing, it's manufacturing, so at 23, that means that each one, so I guess each manufacturing building is only requiring one space or two.
Each building would have, I calculated roughly 3 employees per building. I think that's how I did it.
So 2 spaces per 3 employees.
Yeah, 2 spaces per 3 employees.
So that's 20 for the new buildings, and so that assumes that the 5,000 square foot building only requires 3 spaces.
Sorry, repeat.
Sorry, the existing 5,000 square foot building, if only 23 are required, that means that the existing building only anticipates 3.
That's right.
Only for manufacturing at 5,000 square
Yes.
feet,
And they're well above, so even if you're figuring on a conservative measure.
then we've got extra,
Yeah.
it's 30.
Yes.
Okay, I'll stop talking about it.
All right. Or get any other questions? Okay. All right, seeing no other questions or discussion, I'll ask, yes, we gotta have a motion on this, so.
Sure.
Ask for a motion.
Sure, I'll make a motion. I'd like to motion that we do a positive recommendation of approval for the Theos design review application DR 2025-12 this recommendation is conditioned upon all review agency requirements and the following conditions. Written approval of the design shall not be issued until or all review agency requirements have been met, specifically the comments from the county engineer and fire district. This is based on the following findings: the construction of new buildings within this legally platted subdivision lot is permitted under the land use code. The proposal complies with applicable requirements from the M1 zone. The proposal demonstrates compliance with the applicable land use codes.
Have a motion, I'll ask for a second.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Next item on our agenda, item number 2.2, DR 2025-07. Request for design review approval of the 23,800 square foot fabrication shop located at 852 West 900 South in the M1 zone. Director.
Sorry for the last time. So this project is an administrative request. As an administrative request, there's no requirement for a public hearing or anything to that extent. You are reviewing it to see whether or not it complies with existing ordinances. And there's no new policy making or new rule making that this is part of this.
Thank you. Is the applicant here to give us some background?
Well, to go to Jim Flynn, Halcyon Associates, at 38 North Main in Brigham City.
Nathan Christensen, 5258 West, Warren, Utah.
Thank you, gentlemen.
So what this is I own a fabrication and machine shop. Currently, we are in Centerville and we want to move our operation up here. So it's closer for all of our employees, and we do anything from handrail to small plate parts to machinery, CNC machines. So any questions?
How many people do you currently employ?
14.
And are you expecting this new facility to bring more jobs in, or are you gonna stay about the same?
We expect it's going to be anywhere from around 2 to 5. Over open.
Commissioner? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, commissioners. Let me pull up this slideshow here. Then I'll give you a little bit of background or a little bit of information, I guess. All right. Okay, as the applicant stated, this is a request for design review approval for a 23,800 square foot fabrication building located at approximately 8052 West 900 South in the M1 zone. The applicant is proposing a structure that includes a xeriscape landscaping plan, which is not part of the packet. This information came in right after these were sent out to you guys. We will require submittal of that prior to issuing written approval of this design review. The proposed uses are permitted uses in the M1 zone. Regarding traffic circulation, these are some of the standards to consider when we're looking at design review application. We're looking at traffic circulation, parking, landscaping. In the M1 zone, we don't have architectural standards that are applied in this particular area. But we like to see things that look nice, and staff feels that what the applicant has proposed aesthetically will look really good in this area. A couple of things to note. I'm gonna kind of jump ahead to the site plan so that you can see a little bit. These are development standards. The only standard that's applied in the M1 zone is the front setback. There are no side or rear setbacks, and there's no maximum structure height in this set. These are the elevations that the applicant is proposing. You can see some vertical siding here, got a couple of different colors. We've got enough variation along these longer sides here to kind of break up the monotony a bit. Got some stonework proposed on the south elevation facing 900 South Street. This is the applicant's site plan. Move a couple of boxes out of the way here. Applicant is proposing 2 entrances off of 900 South here. They're including 26 parking spaces, which, for manufacturing or machining, when we go to the parking section of our ordinance, they don't have minimum parking standards, but it sounds as if based upon the employee count and what the potential employee count will be, you've got more than enough for 1 per employee. There are some truck loading spaces. And let me point out something here. The applicant is proposing asphalt in the parking area and road base around the rest of the structure. Now, our ordinance says that anywhere where you're gonna be parking vehicles, and my assumption is that includes the loading of vehicles, should be hard surface such as concrete or asphalt. Charlie may have a different opinion on this, but that's typically what we require. So we've got the conditions outlined in the staff report. Staff has added an additional condition to not only request that, but to just ensure a building permit when everything is being installed, that the parking spaces, including those for loading, meet the minimum standards of the parking zone. This is going through a subdivision amendment right now, so it currently sits on 10.5 acres, but it will be divided into 2 5-acre parcels. And the building, based on the site plan, the structure more than meets the minimum setbacks, especially for the front where there is a setback. Let's see. This is just a close-up of the parking area here. Weber Fire is requiring a pretty heavy-duty water suppression system, and if there are going to be any gates, they'd like to see a Knox box on there. County engineering has got questions about stormwater calculations that I'm not sure if they've been addressed yet or not. The applicant may be able to answer that, as well as the location of some of the infrastructure. This is a parcel that will be on septic, though. There is no sewer to this parcel at this time. And again, planning will issue written approval once all of these concerns are addressed. So these are the conditions of approval. I want to draw your attention to the one in red at the bottom. That's the one that's been added that's not included in the staff report. Planning Commission does have discretion to make any changes or adjustments to that if they feel that it's necessary. Do you have any questions for me?
I think it's great. I hope he does run out of parking. He can take the other 5 acres to make more parking, right?
Well, I would if I could get my whole partner to sell it to me. But I can do more parking out back, yes.
Sure. Okay, commissioners, any questions? Okay. Any other discussion?
I was wondering, started your septic tank approval yet?
Yeah, it's gonna be quite a system. It would be a mound system. It's a professional design. It's pages 4 and 5 of the plans. I'd just like to speak real quickly to the site has great maneuverability around it. So we're counting on the parking and being in pavement in the front, but we can design the road base, support a 75-pound fire truck. So we were anticipating that vast accessibility around the structure being developed. So this is it all.
The light gray area.
Right.
But there are access doors around the entire perimeter of the building, is that correct?
The access doors are where you see the dashed lines adjoining the edge of the building.
What are the other buildings out there have? I don't feel like they have hard surface around the whole thing when they're driving trucks, do they?
is I can't speak to, as far as newer structures, I'm not entirely sure. I know we've got several structures that have been out there for quite a while. That may not necessarily have hard surface parking, and they could have been installed prior to that being part of our ordinance. I'm not sure. It's a good question though.
I'm not against the parking being made.
No, I think that's what we're asking, so that should be paved around the whole building.
Or
Anywhere there's a door. That's what, is that not the question?
That is the question.
But those, are those the area, you have the parking area designed for a road-based type.
Blacktop.
Asphalt.
The front part will be all in asphalt.
Okay. So yeah, it's just around the other doors,
Exactly.
around this whole area. Okay.
And we can submit the report that shows how much road base is required to make it a. I'm used to the standard being have to be able to support a 75,000 gallon, 75,000 pound fire truck.
How big are those aprons around those doors?
Let's see, I think they're 14. Oh, they extend a little bit further.
So, front door, the south door and the north doors are both 18-foot doors on the right half of it. So they would be about 24 feet, 26 feet wide and about 10 feet away from the building. And then the two side doors that will be on the east side are 16-foot doors, so they're gonna be about 20 foot by 10 foot. And then the back, the northwest one will be 12-foot door, so that one's gonna be roughly 18 wide by 10 feet away, and the same with the one on the west side.
And concrete?
And concrete, yep.
Can I ask another question? How often are you accessing the perimeter doors? Is that a regular thing?
The south and the north one on the right side will be accessed quite a bit.
And they're being accessed, I assume you have a lot of delivery trucks that are coming in and out of here?
We get about, most of the time it's one a day, sometimes it's two a days, and it's steel trucks. Just flatbed steel trucks, we unload them with forklifts.
Okay, and does your company own large trucks that will be parked at the facility?
No, we just have a F-550 with a 28-foot gooseneck is what we deliver with.
Okay. And so is that plan to just be parked in the paved area?
Yeah, and not when it's there, yes. Most of the day it's gone. It'll be going like South Jordan to the galvanizer, come back, we'll load. And then go like to Jetway or Oshkosh.
Okay. Anything else?
Just looking at the map, just in down here, I have no Wendy's building to put in. Just looking at an area of the map, we could go. The neighboring buildings look like they're replaced, if even that, yeah.
And I guess what's just hard is if we have an ordinance and all the applications are supposed to meet ordinance, it's hard to make exceptions. That's my difficulty is that
Yeah, I agree.
we should probably change the ordinance instead of exclude it case by case.
Right.
I assume the intention is to have everyone come up to that standard and possibly wear and tear on the roads outside of the facility is why, not even necessarily their parking lot, but the county roads, and there's a lot of road base going in now. I wonder if that has something to do with it, that they don't want to drag the road base through the county roads.
Here's a good picture of why there's concern about not having, asphalt. Just look at your neighbor to the east on this picture. Look up at the monitor or on the screen here that's in front of you.
Yeah.
This is what happens in this area. Is we have construction stuff scattered all over a pretty large parcel that's, sometimes during the year they can get in and out of there and sometimes they can't. We understand you're gonna meet the standard of a hard surface. But that's why it brings concern to us as the planning commission, because we see too much of this kind of stuff going on. You're bringing something that's gonna be very nice, but this is what we see too much of. So it brings a lot of concern. Commissioner Wickern's point, I think that, yeah, if we're gonna update something, we need to update the code to add those things to it rather than case by case, I agree. Because what he's gonna do here is gonna be, 100% better than what's going on there to the east. And on other areas out here, that's not the only one.
Yeah,
So,
it's like if I was to do what these guys did to the east, my work was so soon,
yeah,
they'd be gone.
exactly.
And like Silver, I don't know if I'm supposed to say companies, am I okay to say Silver Line just to the west of me?
Mhm.
Like there's a junkyard.
Yeah.
I don't want that, cause it looks like crap and I'll sink.
Well, and probably sometime in the future when you're doing really well, we'll probably consider putting some more some.
Yeah, I know further.
Something around there. I'm sure that's your intention.
But the asphalt we had down in Centerville, it just, our forklifts eat it up. So when we do it, it's gonna be concrete.
One thing that's kind of good is that in a typical SWIFT environment, you want to have a tracking pad. And so going around the building, the on-site asphalt is the tracking pad before getting to 900 South. So you have that
Right.
naturally.
Here's quick clarification, Tammy. So is it in the code for them to have that around the whole thing, or is that just a suggestion? We're.
I mean, let me pull up this section here. When we're looking at,
I think your condition listed that as a customer bank.
I think it's D9,
is it D9?
D6, sorry.
Here we go. Parking facilities. By the way, this doesn't, and Charlie can jump in here if he needs to, but this doesn't necessarily discuss travel surface on a private property, right? So our main concern, as Jim stated, was that at minimum, it's gotta be fire code as far as the travel surface goes. When we're looking at right down here, letter D, says all parking facilities must be improved with a hard surface such as concrete or asphalt must be sloped and graded. Maybe we look at how we define parking if we're talking about loading and unloading. I guess if the engine's running, it's not technically parked, maybe, I don't know. What are your thoughts, Charlie, or Liam?
I think there is a provision of loading and unloading, but I think you are right when it comes to the travel service, the rights of way within the property. I'm not aware of anything that would require that to be hard surface. In fact, we've had some applications for uses in fairly sensitive areas where asphalt wasn't desirable. It was more desirable to see something a little more permeable or, something to that effect. So some balancing acts there, but I do think you're right, where the vehicles are parked, needs to be hard surface. And I wanna say loading and unloading does have something in there, I feel like I read that a couple weeks ago, but,
Well, I mean, even in this section right here that I've got pulled up in off-street truck loading. It gives dimensions, minimum dimensions, but. It doesn't necessarily state that it has to be a hard surface. We'd rather certainly see road base as the applicant, it sounds like would. And as long as fire's comfortable with being able to circulate a fire apparatus around the structure without any concerns. Staff doesn't have any concerns. The planning commission would rather, is okay with that being road base around the perimeter of the building where there won't be parking.
I don't wanna require them to do anything that the code doesn't require.
Right.
And if the code does require it, even if we don't require it, when it goes to the process, then. They would be required to meet code, even if it's something we missed. So as they go through site plan and the rest of the process, I assume if that's something that needs to be met, then staff would make sure that that was done. No matter what we say, because.
Well, unless the planning commission specifically
Excludes
states
it, so I'd rather just leave it as is, and if they really feel it's necessary, it would be added, but if it needs code as is, then is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and again, staff wasn't sure if there was gonna be parking around those loading doors, so that's why we included that in there.
It was necessary discussion, so thanks for bringing it.
So a question on the SWIFT. So on the SWIFT, that's to contain anything from getting out onto 900 South, right, Jim? So they go around the building, they get mud in their tires, they're supposed to be clean by the time they hit 900 South. Correct?
During construction,
So, no, all the time.
all the time.
All the time. So that's, you'll deal with that as you get complaints, but I think that you'll get tired of dragging that mud into your building over time too. Your area will as you get the financial, way, means to do it, you'll figure out where you want it first, and you'll go from there, I'm sure. So I don't have a problem with that way it is, as long as it needs anybody getting in trouble bringing dirt out onto 900 South. Okay. Anything else, Commissioner? Okay. All right, any other discussion or questions for staff? Okay, I'll ask for a motion on this item.
I'll make this motion, a motion that we recommend approval for, item number 2.2 on our staff report, request for design review approval for a 23,800 square foot fabrication shop located at 8052 West 900 South, Ogden, Utah, in the manufacturing zone. Based on the 4 recommendations in our staff report, including all new agency requirements must be addressed and completed before the written approval design review is issued. Number 2, a landscape plan should be submitted prior to written approval of this design review application. Number 3, occupancy shall not occur until all improvements, including landscaping, have been installed or guaranteed. And 4, the building setbacks conform to code requirements. These are based on the findings included in our staff report.
Okay, got a motion, got a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We're moving on to item number 3, legislative items. Item number 3.1, ZDA 2025-03, a public hearing, discussion, and possible decision regarding an amendment to a zoning map that would expand the boundary of C2 of the C2 zone within the property located approximately 1402 South, 4700 West. The expansion of the C2 zone boundary is intended to cover the entire 2.06 acre parcel. Okay, we don't have anybody from.
I don't see Dale Jordan here, but I guess if he sent any associates to represent him today, then please raise your hand or stand.
It's all you.
Okay. Well, good. So well, just a quick recap of what we talked about last month. So we're just gonna revisit this. We held a public hearing, September. Yeah, I mean, we're back. We're looking at addressing some comments that were brought up, maybe some concerns that we have from the public, as well as some comments from the planning commissioners. That we're hoping that what we have to present today is gonna suffice and have a workable solution. So just a quick recap of what we're looking at here. This is a property on the corner of 1400 South and 4700. This applicant is looking to expand the boundary of the C2 zone. In doing so, the C2 boundary would encompass the entire property as shown in red. And the next slide here we have, I'm gonna go to, so here's what it currently looks like. So we have the zoning map that we work from pretty much on a daily basis at the planning office. And there's some ambiguity as to where those boundaries lie, where the C2 the zone boundary is. And also what type of, where the uses lie, how close to the boundary of that and trying to meet setbacks. And so a way for the owner to clear up that ambiguity would be to change the zone to encompass the entire property. You can see that the surrounding green area, that's agricultural A1 zoning currently. And the C2, which is commercial 2, and so which is that's kind of the proposal. And I'm going to go to another slide for another set of, it's really just, I'm going to go on to this memo that I provided in your packet, and then we can work from there. So, okay, So this is, like I said, this is a continuation of the public hearing, however, this is not a public hearing, it's just a discussion on this topic, this legislative item. And the, let's see here. The owner would like to rezone this property, but at the same time would like to be able to retain some of the grandfathering that exists, because the grandfathering that primarily exists on this property is where the structures are located on the property. A couple of the structures, like the house that's there, is pretty close to the edge of the road. And based on the future roads planned, 4700 West will become 132 feet wide, which would require quite an additional space of an additional 66 feet from the center of the road. And then you also have 1400 South Street, and that's planned to be an 80-foot right of way. And so that would require some additional area to accommodate for that wide 80-foot right of way. And the issue lies where the structures are. So I'm gonna go to this map to show you, this is a survey that, a record of survey that's filed with the county surveyor's office. And it's pretty accurate as to the bearings and distances of the property and the existing right of way widths. The red area indicates that upon the full right of way widening, that's the extent of what would be needed into this property. And you can see that it takes nearly half of those buildings on the west edge. And on the north edge, it's showing that an 80-foot right of way would need a little strip of land on that. And some of the confusion that was brought up during our last meeting was in relation to, you know, what type of improvements are going to be required and when. And I think those are good questions that I think we could answer that would be addressed through requirements in the development agreement. So we do have some standard requirements that come into play. And anytime a commercial property is developed, then we look at what's called a complete street requirement. And so you have the option of a 10-foot sidewalk along the frontage. You also have the option of some angled parking along that frontage. And I would anticipate that you would have some additional right of way dedication that would be required at the design review, accepting out those parts that are occupied by the building. And so those parts would remain as grandfathered structures. And until the owner is ready to either demolish those structures or they're really, you know, voluntarily ready to maybe remove a portion of that structure to make it compliant, then the owner would be required to do so, as well as improving the edge of the right of way. And I want to try and go back to. Let's see. I don't know why I cannot get to the previous page with the. So let's turn to Exhibit A of this memo. And we'll kind of run through the details that would be in the development agreement. And so the street right of way dedication, master developer agrees to dedicate, or if allowed by the county, otherwise reserve the project's street right of way as public thoroughfares at no cost to the county. And then the minimum requirements, each street right of way shall meet the minimum applicable width specifications illustrated in Exhibit E cross sections. Those cross sections are for the 132 feet and the 80-foot right of ways. And then all existing structures that do not conform to the minimum front yard setback are considered legal non-conforming. The expansion to legal non-conforming buildings shall conform to chapter 108-12 non-compliant structures in Weaver County. And that one is it talks about the ability for this person to make an addition to a structure, as long as the addition doesn't further encroach into the non-conforming area. In this case, it would be that front yard. And then the second paragraph, the owner is within their rights to seek fair compensation from the public entity at the time when physical public right-of-way improvements become necessary, or the areas occupied by an existing non-conforming structure. Or for the areas, excuse me. Any new structure shall be located outside of the 60-foot half-width right-of-way of 4700 west and the 40-foot half-width right-of-way on 1400 south. So that pretty clearly states that any new construction needs to conform to the setbacks in anticipation of that right-of-way widening. And let's see here, the appropriate right-of-way dedication shall be made with any new, okay, we already did that one. All new structures and site improvements from the date of this agreement shall be placed in a manner that does not obstruct the clear view site triangle or intersections and driveways as directed by the county engineering department. We went out on site with the engineer, drove out to this place, like the day after our meeting. And we were parked there on 1400 south, right on the edge, and it is pretty tight. You have the asphalt and then you have the building. And we were looking at, you know, one of the main factors that influences your site triangle when you're queued up at an intersection is the speed of 4700. So what we did, we looked at some of the standards that would apply for these, and the engineering division we're pretty comfortable with the site triangle as is. However, any new landscaping, any new structures would need to avoid that. They would not be prohibited in that site triangle area. And then that last one there, the complete street requirement, they're all required in all other areas that do not contain legal conforming structures. So this one might be a little bit, I mean, it might result in a little bit of a disjointed improvement, because if you're dealing with a 10-foot sidewalk in the desired location after the right-of-way widening, then there's a chance that 10-foot sidewalk would not be able to extend all the way to the corner, because there's a building in the way. And so how that's going to look, I don't know. I think that probably have to cross that bridge when we get there, but at least what we could require from the landowner is that they're going to dedicate the appropriate right-of-way width, and they're going to do that with their design review proposal. We'll probably have to look at what options we have for right-of-way improvements along the shoulder. And at this point, I can't really picture what it would look like. I haven't really gotten that far. But if there's any additional maybe details that we can add to this exhibit A for the memo, please let me know, and then we can get those included with the development agreement. But yeah, we'd like to get this one finalized if possible tonight.
I have a question for you, Felix. Do we still have the pared down C2 that'll go into the development agreement for this?
Are you mentioning? Yes, we do
Yeah,
have
that
that.
discussion, you provided us with a version of that it disallowed some uses, and that's still part of it.
It is, yes.
Commissioners, anything else?
Yeah, I just have a question for you, Felix. How come we don't have that in this map? I know we tabled this, so for me, it's hard to understand what's really being said just from 2-page memo. Like, as far as what your recommendation is, so is there a reason why we don't have it in our regular format like the other ones?
Yeah, as far as like including the entire,
Yeah, the whole proposal to have the development agreement in it and everything else, so we know what we're actually proposing and what we're approving or not.
yes. I think so, I mean, the reason I didn't include that is because nothing has changed, that is a standing, that report, it stands, everything in there. What I have in this memo would be in addition to what was, what is in the report.
Okay, so for future, for me personally, it's just easier if you have all that together, even if you include them. So, because if I would have known that or realized that, I probably would have brought my packer last month or last time we met, so
Gotcha.
it makes it a lot easier when trying to make these decisions, to even just have the historical part of knowing what it is that we're approving, so.
Okay, yeah.
Especially on something that's complicated like this one.
Yeah, for sure, I'll make sure to have that.
I agree, thank you, Felix, yeah, make sure that we do that. Anything else, commissioners?
I would rather less paper, but if Casey wants it, he can have it.
If you're comfortable making them, I honestly don't even know really what to make a motion.
I am comfortable making the motion.
If you feel like it's all within there.
I'd say go ahead and use the extra half for ream of paper, it's okay with me.
Okay.
If we don't use it, somebody else will. I'd rather run it instead.
I'd rather just be informed.
Yes.
But not trying to beat you up, it's just.
No, I don't take it that way, so yeah, I appreciate it.
I honestly thought this was part of one of the other ones for a while.
And, hey, commissioners, anything else on this for Felix? Any other discussion? Are we ready to make a motion and have a vote on this tonight? Oh, yeah, I guess we do have this subject to a public hearing. Is there anyone here that's here for the public hearing for this particular item?
Can you just open and close your mouse?
Do we need to open and close it?
Yeah, open and close.
Okay, all right. I'll take a motion to open public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, sorry, I should have got a second on that. Does anybody want to second that?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, we're in public hearing. Anyone want to give us 3 minutes on this subject? Okay, seeing no one, I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
Go first.
Okay, got a motion, I'll second. Okay, I have a motion to second somehow. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're out of public hearing. All right, now, are we ready to vote on this tonight? Have a motion and vote on this, or do we need more time? I'd say that we should take action on this. Thank you.
I'm ready to make a
Okay,
motion.
I'll ask for that motion.
Chair, I recommend that we approve legislative item ZDA 2025-03 regarding the boundary of the C2 zone within the property located at 1402 South 47 West. I make a recommendation that we follow the recommendations included in the staff report from September 16th, that also include Exhibit A from today's staff report in the development agreement. And this is based on the findings that it with the revisions that we've made, including the adjustments to the C2 allowances or the allowances in the C2 zone, that it will have, it will minimize the effect on the surrounding properties, with also allowing the current property owners to utilize their property rights.
Okay. Have a motion. I'll ask for a second.
Second.
Have a motion in a second. This will be a roll call vote. Commissioner Rogers,
Aye.
Commissioner Ricker,
Aye.
Commissioner DeVal, aye, Commissioner Andriotti,
Aye.
Commissioner McCormick.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
May I add something for the record, just in case anyone's listening to these minutes in 25 years from now to find out what you guys did tonight? what was agendized as CBA 2025-03, and it's actually CMA 2025-05. So just to keep that record clear.
Oh, okay, so the agenda's got the numbers mixed up. Okay.
Oh, okay, I'm like,
Okay. So we took care of item 3.1, we just had the wrong title on. Okay. All right. Thanks, commissioners. Next item on our agenda, item number 3.2, CDA 2025-03. A public hearing discussion and possible decision regarding an applicant to rezone the Halcyon Estates subdivision from agricultural A1 zone to residential R115 zone. We're gonna hear from the applicant.
Evening, Commissioner Staff, Keith Ward, 1978 South Cameron Drive in West Haven. We are back again. We've been down this path a little bit, which is great. I think we are at a place where we've spent considerable time working with certainly Charlie and staff, working sessions with you all, as well as working with Parks District to come up with a feasible way forward on this plan. And I think I would echo the comments that are in the report, certainly in a lot of the information that's been provided to you from us as developers, that think that this is a good path forward in terms of supporting the general plan, using the land in meaningful or best use as well, and being able to make a sizable contribution to support additional local parks and development that way to provide that community benefit. Yeah, I'm happy to provide any other information you'd like, but I think that's short and sweet at this point.
Commissioners, any questions? Okay. Maybe after. Thank you. Darling?
You guys want me up front, or is this microphone good enough for you?
You're fine.
Way happy to, let me hope a slideshow I have for you guys before we dive into some of the details. Very good. So we're looking at rezoning property from the A1 zone to the R115 zone. The applicant owns 10 acres, Halcyon Estates development. Halcyon Estates was platted, I think it was at least 2 times, if not, there might have been a third time. There's certainly a phase 1, which was a lot average development, and then there was a phase 2, which was a PRUD development. And I think if there was a phase 3, it was an amendment, if I remember correctly. So the Halcyon Estates development is there outlined in kind of that reddish orange color. The 10-acre piece that we're talking about is the development agreement area. Reason why we're looking at the entire Halcyon Estates as well as the 10-acre area is right now between the lot average and the PRUD, it's very likely that each of those lots conform to our PRUD or former PRUD ordinance or the lot averaging ordinance, because there's an open space piece or open space component to this. If you take the open space component away from it, then all of those lots are still in the A1 zone. There is no clustering that has occurred. There's no open space that goes with it, which would take all of those lots and put them into a non-conforming status. So staff is suggesting that we look a little bit outside of the 10-acre boundaries just to get everybody into a zone that is appropriate for the size of lots that they have. On their subdivision plats, it's still gonna be called a lot average subdivision or a PRUD. But if anyone wanted to come in and change that, it'd be a pretty simple change because the lots will be formed to the new zone, the R150. So This is what you have in your zoning map right now. See my mouse here? That is the 10-acre piece we're talking about. And the other part of Halcyon is kind of out in this area here. You can see the shape of that with the, so this is the existing zone map. This map over here is the proposed zone map, so that's the change that we have to rezone. Some of the concerns that have come up in the past when we're looking at changing the zone of other people's property is, well, what kind of rights are we going to be losing by going into the new zone? By far and large, they're going to be actually gaining rights for a residential neighborhood. But anyone who's got ambitions to be a farmer, have farm animals or whatever, those aren't necessarily allowed in the residential zone. However, if they already have them, those will be legal non-conforming rights in the residential zone. They'll be able to keep going the way that they are today. So everything already legally established can move forward or can stay unless or until they are abandoned.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
Is that if they physically have one of those animals right now, or just if they're in that area with one of those lots currently?
If they physically have one of those animals now. So if we know of anyone whose ambition is to put a horse in the backyard on their half-acre piece, then we may want to relook at this or relook at rezoning that portion of it for sure. So we haven't had broader conversations with those individual levels.
So I'm assuming this is probably gonna come up during our public hearing. That's why I asked the question, because that was my main concern with this whole thing. Is that those that originally bought lots can still, whether they've done it yet or not, have the opportunity to do what they originally planned with those lots.
That's a good question. Another way to look at this that might help resolve that is if you look at phase, back one more slide, maybe. Alright, here's your really slowly. And it just went black, so I'll let my computer figure out what it's doing and say something. As we look at this, oh, here we are. It's just gonna be a song and dance for a minute there. As you're lucky. It's computer feedback. Okay. You're not seeing what I'm seeing though. So if we're just looking at Halcyon phase 2, which is the PRUD portion, though that is where you've got the smallest lot sizes. And those small lot sizes, you couldn't have farm animals on. You don't have enough acreage on there. If we're looking at the larger lot sizes, which is just, it's the part of the development that is west of the 10-acre piece and west of phase 2. Some of those are almost an acre, some of them are as small as a 1/3 acre or so. The ones with at least, getting into my brain, I believe that they've got to have at least a half acre of pasture ground to have a horse, or actually, I think if you have 2 horses on that, they could potentially have farm animals. And so we could always just say, you know, we're not going to rezone any part of that piece. We're just going to stick with phase 2 and this new portion for the rezone, and that would work just fine. And that would actually fit well with the Giordano subdivision, which are all 1-acre lots. That whole square, that whole 40-acre square, which is Giordano plus Halcyon phase 1, would all be in the A1 zone, agricultural zone. So they'd be covered. The only challenge is the lot averaging. You'd have a few lots that are under what the A1 zone requires. So it's kind of a balancing act of that landowner figuring out whether or not that's of a greater detriment than having horses, or if not being able to have horses, greater detriment. If they've already got a home on the property and the property's already been subdivided, I actually don't see any detriment in them staying in the A1 zone for those parcels. So. Still don't know why you guys can't see what I see, but
See it first.
same back. Gotta catch the vision. You reshare. Okay. Yeah. I need to open up so we're doing everything. They did not like the meeting. Be just a moment. working on the slideshow earlier today, maybe it's the slideshow, on my upstairs computer in the office, and all of a sudden Microsoft decided it's the right time to shut the computer off and use some firmware upgrades, which I haven't seen that happen in a while. It's interesting. Did lose anything though. Still.
So even though that got rezoned with the cluster subdivision, it's still considered A1.
Yeah, so it wasn't rezoned with the cluster, it was, that would have been an administrative decision, applying the cluster, which would essentially say whatever the area is in the A1 zone, you can have smaller lot sizes as long as you have larger open spaces or larger lot sizes.
It's been a minute since we've been through that, so I have to refresh me, I apologize.
I am aware that you guys are probably gonna see a cluster subdivision here in the next little bit, which isn't gonna be fun, but we'll deal with it as we can here.
Isn't that in Ogden Valley?
It's still allowed out west, so we haven't changed that yet. And if this one is in out west, it is. Okay. Almost real good. You guys want, I can act it out to charades.
Yeah, Charlie, since it's on my mind while you're trying to do that, I know you're a multitasker, so
Let's do it again.
one more clarifying question. So if they're all in the A1 zone, but they only have a third acre, they're only gonna be allowed to do what they can with that third acre, right? What the third acre allows. Doesn't mean they're automatically get the same as an acre lot would, as far as rights to animals and buildings and things, right?
Correct, yeah, so if it's a property that only has third acre, and they don't have the minimum amount of acreage needed for a horse, they wouldn't be able to get a horse. Which is actually the case today.
Right, yeah, yeah, right.
Right, how about now?
There you go.
There you go. Number one or number two?
Your magic.
Alright. So this is the concept plan for the property. If you look at the 10-acre piece that's in green, you look to the south, that's another 10-acre piece, that's phase 2. So if we didn't rezone phase 1, which is to the west of those, which is, I'm just gonna kind of circle here. If we didn't rezone that and just focused on these two pieces here, I think that would probably solve that concern altogether. Okay, yep. When you're looking at rezone considerations, you've got to determine whether or not it's consistent with the general plan, whether or not it's compatible with the existing development in the area. I would say compatible with existing and planned development. Your ordinance does say existing and planned. You need to review impacts on adjacent properties, adequacy for existing facilities and services, environmental considerations, and traffic mitigations for this property, because all 4 sides have either been developed or are in the process of being developed. There's really not a lot of impact that developing this property is going to have on the neighborhood, with the exception of those who are right next to the open space, who have bought there with the expectation that that open space will be there, or has gained some sense of perception of a right to it staying on open space. So the folks who are in those shoes could be troubled by the change. But from a broader perspective, as far as increased traffic, increased services, demand for services, all that, this is the same kind of residential development that we're looking at all over out there. So not a whole lot different. When we're looking at consistency with the general plan, they will need to change the general plan. They have applied to change the general plan, and that is part of this request that you guys are looking at today. Right now, the general plan shows what's on the screen in front of you. The black outline is that black outline I showed you before. If we were to cut off the little jagged piece on the east side, we'd just be looking at this piece over here. If we're looking at a change to enable this, the image on the right could be that change. There's a variety of ways we could change the general plan future land use map to enable this, but. The image on the left is what is existing, the image on the right is something I threw together to illustrate the difference. And just to kind of get you guys looking at this, apples to apples, I'm just gonna toggle back and forth here so you can kind of see the differences. I am suggesting, this is just staff suggestion, you don't have to do it now at all. I am suggesting making an amendment to that future land use map that is reflective of all the public developments that have happened since that map was created in the area. So you could see some street connectivity, you could see some pathway connectivity, open spaces, rights of way that have come to fruition that weren't in that area at the time that we created this map. So I would just suggest we put the whole thing up. And while at the same time, we decide of those black boundaries there, you can see the differences between existing, that's this one, and proposed. Some of those green spaces that traverse the property, that was taken with a very thick brush as we painted this map. The one that goes east-west with the brown dashed line, that is following the Walker Slough. The majority of this development and for a good portion of the Giordano development and the Stagecoach development, that has all been buried. And so you don't get much of that Walker Slough. You get a little bit in the Giordano development, but not much beyond that. And so it makes a little bit more sense to just push that green facility up against the road on 1800. Which is what we did over in the Stagecoach Estates development. And if you want to see a great looking path, go take a look at that. In fact, if you want to drive to the Stagecoach development, I'd encourage you to do so. I think as far as I can see, all of their flat work, with the exception of a little bit of sidewalk, is in now. You can kind of see the fruits of the labors there. And then as far as the north-south pedestrian pathway goes here, that was a little bit pie in the sky at the time. Believing that we either had a school or a park going in on this corner here. It is owned by the school district, and knowing that we had some park space over down in here. So this park has come to fruition. A portion of that piece up there has been developed, or is it being developed by D.R. Horton. The other portion is still owned by the school district, but it's a small enough piece that I don't want the school districts to use it for a elementary school. So, long story short, the north-south and east-west pathway connections, I don't know that we need to go right through the middle of this development. I think it'd be better suited to go along the rights of way where most of that are is. I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. As far as compatibility goes, this is the exact quote out of the general, or out of the code, whether the proposed development is compatible with the overall character of existing development vicinity of the subject property, and if not, consideration of the specific incompatibilities with the context of the general plan. You know what the plan says. We know that generally speaking, if you're looking at the text of the map and not the map, sorry, the text of the plan and not the map of the plan, we know that this is keeping with general plan. So changing the map of the plan would make this keeping with the general plan in totality. So as we talk about the development agreement, we just slapped in there the template development agreement that we've been using for all of our other rezones. Sorry. I haven't plugged in all the details, but these 5 details here are really the differences between this project and other projects. 10-year term, that's actually not different. 10-year term is a 5-year extension. That is kind of our default. Street pathway connectivity, talk to you just a little bit about that in a minute. There's some things for you to think about there. Our contribution, the applicant has proposed $7,500 per resident in the existing development and per resident in the proposed development. And when we're saying existing, we're probably just talking about the portion that's rezoned. So if we shrink that piece, that piece gets a little bit smaller to look at just phase 2. I am suggesting that we look at the pathway on 1800 South. Right now, there is a 4-foot wide sidewalk and about a 4-foot wide park strip on the frontage of Halcyon Estates at both phase 1 and phase 2. Over on Stagecoach, they've got that pathway between Stagecoach and Halcyon, where Giordano subdivision, fronts on 1800. We're gonna be doing a storm drain improvement project next year, upon which we're planning on putting a 10-foot wide pathway as long as we actually have the right of way that we think we have. And then if you look to the other side, that portion is east of Halcyon Estates. If you look to the west of Halcyon Estates, you've got, I think, 3 residential lots before you get to 4300 west. So we work with those lot owners to finish that pathway. So potentially, if this project is done, and we can get the drainage projects that are 1800 done, we could, by the end of next year, have an asphalt pathway from 4300 all the way to the eastern side of Stagecoach Estates. At which point we'd be looking at using either impact fees or applying for some funds from Wasatch Front Regional Council to get you all the way to 3500 west. That'll take care of a big chunk of 1800 as far as pedestrian and active transportation goes. 4300 is important because we've already got some asphalt pathway going in on 4300. South of 18 is gonna be a little bit of a different story, because we've got curb gutter and sidewalk on both sides of the road there. But we're not quite sure how that pathway is gonna tie in to the block south of 1800. But north of 1800, up to 1400, you'll have the full asphalt pathway on the west side of that, or excuse me, east side of that road. And if the plan holds true, and if we can find a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, we might find a way to get it up over the tracks, over 12th Street, with a direct connection to the elementary school on one side. So that'll be a pretty cool community connection, but getting over the railroad tracks is gonna be a little challenging. When this application first came forward a few years back, there was a big question about the trees. In phase 1, the trees were not planted. The county still holds an escrow for that. The escrow isn't enough to cover the trees now, might have been enough to cover the trees then. Working with the applicant has suggested that they will work with the lot owners who want the trees planted to get those trees out in the park strip. And the lot owners who don't want the trees planted, they'll take the same amount of trees and donate them to the park district. So we get some trees in the park district.
Charlie, can I ask you a question on that one? 10 years seems like a long term for such a small development. Can we shorten that and get this rolling more faster?
We could. It'd actually be worth asking the applicant what they think their horizon is on that. But yeah, if you wanted to shorten that to a 5-year term with one 5-year extension, we could certainly do that.
5-year term, 1 year extension. I don't know, just the way the rest of Halcyon is gone, I don't know that anyone wants this dragging on any much longer.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Hey, I wanted to bring up a little bit of conversation on connectivity, just so you can have a look. I give you a couple ideas in your packet on what may be possible for the area. Number one, sorry, hang on a second. See if I can get you a bigger view of this here. So Stagecoach is this development here. You can see we've got the road coming in from Stagecoach into the Giordano development, and then into the phase 1 of the Halcyon development. In that phase 1 of the Halcyon development is a right of way that was platted for the purpose of study to that northern property should it ever develop, and you guys have approved development on that. That's the Martini, or I think we call it the Brookview Estates. It's going to be called Martini Legacy. And in that development agreement, they are required to pave that road to make that full connection. So at the end of this road here, you'll have 4 lots on cul-de-sac. The original proposal, our staff's comments on that was maybe we look at 1625 over here. We connect that all the way down to the east into that cul-de-sac. The applicant has proposed, instead of a full street connection, they proposed a pathway connection from the cul-de-sac into the street that will run north and south here. So there may be a street opportunity there, but the applicant is at the very least looking at providing a pedestrian connection. I would venture a guess, I can't speak for everyone over here on this cul-de-sac, but I would venture a guess that most of them don't want to go through So it's just a question of connectivity. If we're looking at the broader picture of connectivity, we do know that it stubs into this property here. We know that we could potentially get some good connection over in here. But once you get over to Bristol Farms, it ends in a T here. And so essentially you'd be taking a right up to this road here, which is now installed. Yeah, I believe that's now installed, to get out of that development. So it's not a cross neighborhood, connection once you get into this area here. The other thing to look at is, if you look at their, proposed layout, they've got a road that it comes in here, ties into this road here, and then there's just like a lower loop road. If you'd like to see the opportunity to potentially get a pathway in, if you look at between lots 418 and 419 in that Bristol Farms development, which I actually just noticed this after we were talking earlier today, there is a reserved pathway connection. And so we would want to look to them to finish that pathway connection. I've got to check in with staff to verify that phase 4 of Bristol is actually planning that. But if they are, we're definitely going to want to see that line extend through to this road over here to provide that mid block pathway connection. If it isn't going to be platted right there, I suggest, well, I'm not going to say I suggest this. I'm going to say you have an opportunity. This is kind of one of those soft suggestions. Sometimes they come with a really strong recommendation. This one's not a strong recommendation. It's just a matter of how much connectivity you guys want to see in your community. You could try and get a pathway connection down part of the lot lines that are kind of a pie shape here. And maybe here to connect to this street here. But overall, the connectivity, making this connection here, and that connection there. So you're connecting on 3 sides. You've got much better connectivity for the area than you had before. Yeah, the streets and pathways, we already talked about going out on 80. So any questions for me? That really is my
Working with that connectivity on the trailer, you said the pie shaped lots. This one adjacent to the west is not plotted yet, correct?
Correct.
So like this is just basically possibility of what they would do. So if we got these guys to get something there, we could require the next one to add to that, correct?
Yeah, let me ask, Felix, did you get a chance to look into phase 4, Bristol?
I will look at that right now.
Okay. While he's pulling that up, yes, it hasn't been platted yet. Yes, we have an opportunity to work with them to get it platted correct. Question of what they're entitled to and what they're not entitled to. If they are entitled to not put that pathway in and you guys want that pathway in, it's probably too late to ask for Bristol, but it's not too late to ask this developer to work with the developer of Bristol, especially where they haven't platted yet. We have asked for that in the past. We did ask for that in Winston Park development. They had to purchase a right of way between 2 lots to connect east-west. They also purchased back 2 whole lots at the end of the cul-de-sac to punch a road through. So you have asked for that in the past. It's just a question of whether or not this provides the way they've designed it provides a level of connectivity that you're comfortable with, or if you'd like to see.
What was the plan with that our pathway being between lot 418 and 419, just to get to this open space?
Yeah, so there's a possibility to get to the open space. We also, when Bristol was going in, we did talk about the possibility of taking this road here. Sure, sorry, the mouse lags a little bit behind where I had it. So possibility of taking this road here in, bringing it up across to connect to there. The developer of Bristol really didn't want to make that connection, and in discussing this potential development with the applicant, the developer of Bristol Farms, or this applicant said they really don't want to see that street connect through, especially where this street 725 has already been stubbed in by this developer, and that developer's picking that stub up. So they said, why don't we just stick with the pathway? We said, okay. And yep, on their concept plan, they are showing that pathway right here where it's showing the concept, or excuse me, on their preliminary plan, they are showing where that's going to be. So this is that is, that's fine. So they're close to final actually. They're past preliminary. Yeah. But it hasn't been recorded, so it's gone through the approval process, that right of way will be there, so. We can work with, yeah.
We think the person maybe would be one.
Yeah,
With not, but still their obligation.
Right, yeah, I mean, it makes sense to have that pathway down there in that corner.
I have some discussion items, but are we gonna first do,
I have a lot of questions, but I was gonna add to that.
public hearing? Okay.
That's
Good with that, you guys ready for public hearing? Okay. All right, I'll take a motion to open a public hearing.
Go move.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
We're in public hearing, so come on up to the podium, give us your name and address in 3 minutes of your best.
Good evening, Brad Nelson, 1721 Giorgio Street. I was here for the last meeting that was held on this issue about rezoning this, and when you guys denied it, I spoke with you guys about it. Since then, I don't, like you said, I don't know what's changed. And the fact that they got their density in trade for 10 acres that was supposed to be left in agriculture, which conformed with the general plan at the time. So now, here we are, a couple of years later, we're wanting to take it back out. I don't see how they got their density, plain and simple, by leaving that out. I bought into this subdivision, as a 1 acre lot. There's supposed to be 25 homes on this with a water ski lake is what it was proposed as originally, right? The water ski lake didn't go. That's fine. Why aren't they 1 acre? I tried to shut the whole development down, the second phase, because I wouldn't sign the plat. Because I was a homeowner and I refused to sign the plat when I found out what was going on, because I bought into a 1 acre. 1 acre subdivision. I'm fine with 1 acre around me. I bought out there to not have somebody 10 feet off my property. Well, when I wouldn't sign the plat, you guys had an emergency meeting and you took me, well, you left me in the original Halcyon Estates. And they made a new subdivision around me, which included everybody else. So this whole thing has just been a nightmare for us, for me personally, because everything I went out there to do has been pretty much, it's gone. I have 0.22 of an acre right behind me, 2 lots right in my backyard. Now you're wanting to put more back there. The other neighbor, who's not here right now, the McCarthy's, they're in Florida. I just spoke with them on the phone. They wanted horses, and now we're hearing if you don't have horses already, you're not gonna get it if this passes. You know, what are we doing? I mean, if you guys were the ones that bought out there, wouldn't you feel the same? You've been backdoored from the get-go. I fought it. I wasn't notified of the emergency meeting to put it into. To take, basically, you know, to move it around to get it to move forward. So, I mean, that's my 2 cents on it. One other thing I wanna, isn't there supposed to be, don't you have to apply for a permit for rezoning? Isn't there supposed to be a permit for rezoning? Aren't they required to have a valid permit right now?
The chair has signaled for me to answer. So, as far as the permit, no, but an application, yes, and they do.
Yeah, the application. Yeah, the application expired 3/18/2025.
It did, there was an application that was actually submitted since then,
When?
more recently since then. I'm not sure
It's just
exactly.
not on your website, so that's why, because I just was looking on the website.
Okay.
So it's just confusing.
Good catch.
So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Scott Arden, 4081 West 1700 South, there was the small cul-de-sac that, would have the walk path that may be impacted. I guess I don't feel strongly about not pushing this forward through. I think it's inevitable, so we might as well get the construction going and get it done fast. I liked what, Ms. Wittron said, maybe like 1 year, get this thing rolling and just get it done. I think that'll improve the area, rather than the dirt. That being said, I don't know what the asphyxiation of the parks and all the money going to the parks. When you have roads and the infrastructure out there, that is horrific. You guys made a lot of choices to allow the Stagecoach and Bristol Farms and everyone else, as well as the original Halcyon. I believe it was one of you, I can't, maybe it was you, Mr. Preslar, who said you encouraged, or no, actually I think it was Charlie, said to go out and look at all these walk paths. Well, I mean, if people like walk paths in their backyards, that sounds whatever. It is what it is. I'm not a big fan of it. But you're bringing all this construction in and they just tear up the roads over and over and over. And like, we just got 1800 repaved, what, 2 years ago? Now it looks like a bomb went up, and every time they repave it, it's like a speed bump. It's just ridiculous. And Halcyon itself, I mean, it's fair to say, it's very dilapidated and pathetic and needs to be addressed. I would propose if this is going forward, which I think it should, because it's inevitable. I think that money should be redirected to the people it actually affects. And we're not doing high density housing in that particular area. As of right now, obviously we're doing smaller lots and different things, but I don't know. I didn't grow up in a really grand area, but we still had a little bit of a backyard to throw a ball around. I don't know if we need a park on every corner. Things so. But I do think it would really help the road race if you guys could potentially think about maybe redirecting some of that money towards the repavement of some of the areas that's actually being affected. So with that, then the only last piece is keeping, I'll call it the first phase out of the second phase. I think that would be wise. I don't think there is any type of lot that's smaller than a half acre. And then as Mr. Nelson stated, there is individuals who did buy out there that don't currently have livestock, but that was their purpose. And obviously that'd be limited by their land size. So if it doesn't impact that project going forward, I don't see any reason in changing something that will extend. All homes are already currently built. The last one is under construction. That's been kind of waiting, so it shouldn't impact the density, whatever calculation you were discussing. So that's my 2 cents. Let it go forward, put some money where it actually makes sense. And I don't think pathways and parks personally is really the thing for the club. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Name's Miranda Espiritu, 1785 DeGiorgio, which is a very end corner lot of 1800 and Halcyon first phase. While it's fresh on my mind, I do support the fact of making them 2 separate zonings. And that would alleviate a lot of the pressure of the folks in the back part of the original phase that did have plans for animals. The rest of them are too small anyway, so it really wouldn't impact them. So that is a good compromise. Your other slides that show that maybe nothing will be impacted as far as services and traffic, that's where my heartburn is. Because you can't add 1,000 houses all around the original phase of Halcyon and not have traffic impact. We've got a park that's halfway done across the street. I don't even know what the plans are gonna be as far as who's gonna manage that, when the park itself, it's taken 2 years just to get the building up. I understand there might be some questions about water on that particular situation with the park and the pavilion. I like and support what this gentleman said about taking the funds that we're going to go to that 10-acre park and putting them into Halcyon, into the original phase, the road is a disaster. If we wanna put trees, we wanna put walking paths, that's one thing. But getting the road up to the normal standard, you can't say that the traffic, the increased 1,000 houses, assuming everybody's got one car, most of them have 2 or 3. That traffic is horrendous. School buses, Weaver County, they do not obey the speed limit coming down that road. I've clocked them, they're 65 miles an hour, and those are school buses. You try and stop one of those when a kid's running across the street to the park. It's just not happening. I went to turn on my water yesterday. There is no water pressure. Our secondary water got shut off on the 15th of September. My trees, my landscape, I don't even have grass. All the rest of it is dying because we still had 80-degree temperatures and no infrastructure. So I do support the rezoning. I would like to see it split to where it has the least amount of impact. But if we don't start paying attention to the infrastructure, all the growth is just gonna kill us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Megan Arden, 4081 West, 1700 South in the cul-de-sac. No one had mentioned yet about the pathway and the proposal of perhaps putting a roadway in there, and I would just like to make it my opinion expressed that I do not want a roadway there. That does not make sense. There's 2 direct roads now going in that'll go from 1800 to, was it 1400? And I don't see a need to put an additional roadway in there. So I would like to say a walk path would be better. Obviously, no impact would be preferable, but a walk path over the road is my opinion. And then just some, I don't know, I guess there's been some miscommunication. It's the Giorgio subdivision, and there's no park strip. We have no sidewalks in there, and there were a couple other things that just didn't, I just wanted to make sure you had a clear understanding. The park is not finished. There's no water for it, so it's not a park. It's a building that can't be used. And there were some other misinformation being said, so just wanted to clarify some things to give you a better picture, but thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Commissioners, I'll ask for motion to close public hearing. So moved. Second. Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, we're now at public hearing. I'd like to have staff and the applicant address some of the questions that were brought up, so. I'm sure you wrote down the questions, so have at them.
Did you want to take it? Where do you want to start? Didn't write them all down.
I don't think it's just from a overarching umbrella perspective. It's gonna take time as the community develops. As far as the park goes, the park has water. It's just gonna take time to mature all that and get the park to install the irrigation systems, get the park to tap into the wells that they are going to be getting from the developer over there. As far as the streets go, those are gonna be built over time as well, and unfortunately, in any growing area, you can feel the impact before you see it get better. It just happens that way. I wish I could say that it doesn't. As far as 1800 South goes, there's a strong desire for it to be on, or excuse me, it is on the West Edgeland Regional Council's radar for improvements. It is slated to make a connection on the eastern side down to the 20th Street, what is that, Wilson Lane, I think, make a connection to the freeway, so you'll have a direct freeway access coming from there out into the 1800, which means we would pay very close attention to 1800 and how it performs over time. It is an old farm road. It probably wasn't built on the same amount of material that we like these kinds of roads to be built on. And so as time goes on, we're hoping to continue to get that road rebuilt by developers at developers' expenses, not at taxpayers' expenses. As far as getting into the Giorgio development, I do know that there are some people who are in Giorgio who love the way that the infrastructure of George Julian is. They don't want curb gutter sidewalk, or park strips. They like it rural, quaint, feel that it is. We heard that, when we were talking about, the subdivision to the north. And, but, as time goes on and as more and more homes are built and the population grows, there are things that we're gonna have to look at, whether it's curb gutter and sidewalk, or not. To bridge those gaps, and lines will change as things grow. It's just hard to make those changes now, especially where we see a field. But when we start to see traffic patterns change, we start to see things fill in. Then the county might be in trouble for not having enough infrastructure over the Georgia subdivision. So a couple things to think about. Sure, I think the ones that are in need of a response here. As far as construction goes, I agree with Scott, completely, let's get this done, get it over with. The worst part, the biggest part of impact of any development is the construction period. It can be messy, so faster we can make that happen, and I think it's a good question for Keith to answer first. Park donations, so it's something that may not be well understood by everyone in the neighborhood. When we went through the general plan process, one of the biggest emerging themes that came down the pipeline is, if we're gonna actually have to grow, if we don't want to, but if we have to grow, we do not have the recreational space to do that there. So we need more parks, we need more trails, we need all of these things. We took that and we ran with it, because we have a lot of opportunity to work with developers to get those kinds of cool little connections in. Connections in one development might not line up with old infrastructure in another development, and that's certainly something we need to take into consideration. Can we use that money to go towards existing infrastructure through a rezone and through a development agreement? Yeah, can. The rezone and development agreement needs to be signed by the developer as much as it needs to be signed by the county, so both parties need to benefit from it, otherwise it doesn't work, right? And so potentially, yeah, you can get some improvements to existing infrastructure. If we're doing this from a subdivision perspective, so not for a rezone, not for a development agreement, no, you can't make the other developers money to fix somebody else's problem, even if that problem, that somebody else, was the developer that's coming in asking for the next phase to be developed, that's already been settled by the courts. So the existing infrastructure problems in Halcyon, we need to pay attention to those and figure out exactly what needs to be done. Maybe Keith can offer some solutions to that as well. Otherwise, it's just gonna fall on the roads department to fix over time.
Trey, may I add to your point about the parks and the funding going there?
Please.
From my understanding, the reason why we were looking at it for the parks is because we were guaranteeing open space. So we're taking away open space, and we need funds to build up our open space that we were reserving for good, such as a park. Is that correct? Or trails and things like that.
That is correct, and there's quite a big nest egg that the park district is building with all these developers, because we are asking for a significant amount of money per front door, so hopefully that does not stay a building that can't be used, a parking lot in a building that can't be used, hopefully that turns into a pretty cool park.
And I think what we've heard from the parks solidifies what Scott said, is why do we need all these parks? That's what they said with this parcel in particular, is we don't need the open space here, let's use funding to make our park better.
Consolidate, make bigger,
Right,
parks.
instead of a bunch of little ones scattered through. Was there, not my opinion necessarily, but there. Okay. I have more questions or more comments, I guess, and whether, unless you want, maybe you should address your stuff.
I can address the question of the development horizon. I think that it's imminent, soon as we get approval. I mean, that's our intent. So I have no issues with shortening that time span.
We do 3 years?
Possibly more expensive.
Yeah, the longer we wait, the worse it gets. Assuming the world doesn't get melted down.
3 years with a 1 year extension, it seems like 4 years, we should be extended.
I think we can finalize on 3 years.
3 years would be okay.
If that makes you feel better about it. I mean, whether it's 3, 5, or 10, we're hoping for.
To get
as
it
quick as
done,
possible.
just for the sake of the residents, like 3 years still seems too long to me, but at least there'll be some fight.
Well, it is a relatively small piece of land in reality, so it shouldn't be, the challenge on any construction project is if lots are purchased by someone who then decides to sit on them, right? That's where a lot of delay comes from.
So if we put the 3 year, that'll put the fire behind those people purchasing the lots, but the development agreement is only for the.
Well, 3 year would be for us to complete the project, correct?
Correct. Keep in mind that the development agreement protects both sides.
Yeah.
And so if the development agreement expires before we get certain benefits out of it, that actually isn't helpful. As much as it might be.
Oh, so beyond just the buildings, but better improvements.
But if the intention is for parks, open space, trails, all that to be contemplated with one plat that gets filed and processed within the next 3 years, that plat will stand as vesting, right? So as long as they're making good faith improvements and progress towards executing that plat, whatever term is in that agreement doesn't matter, because at the point that they submit a subdivision application, their vesting follows the subdivision timeline.
Oh, okay.
Not the rezone time.
Right, and the other thing to think about is, once they get the plat done, executed, recorded, anyone can come in, whether it's tomorrow or the day after, not tomorrow, the day after they record and get us a building permit, or 20 years down the road and get a building permit. So maybe some of the lots don't get built on, that doesn't affect the development agreement. Development agreement is more about infrastructure, roads, open space, parks, rec, that kind of stuff.
And we want that done, I think.
Quick.
Anything else, commissioners?
I have no question, but not necessarily for just Jack in general, but if you have something.
Just about the improvements to the existing Halcyon Estate, especially the roads.
So the road in question is the Georgia Way, which is the road with no curb and sidewalk.
But I think there's also concern of just the conditions of the road as well, not just.
So in the original development agreement, this would have been before we would change to a PRD. What we would, I guess affectionately call phase 1. Money was escrowed and paid for the resurfacing of that road at a point in the future, which the county has. So at that point, our responsibility would have been absolved as a developer because we provided the necessary funding for that road to be resurfaced.
And, just all the existing roads and how.
Yeah, well, so the existing roads, if you were to pull up the plat, Charlie, but if you look at the Giorgio Lane, I think that's correct, right? Or Giorgio Street, that's the road that's been there for quite some time, from a development that was put in around the 2000 era. That's the one I think is in question. The other roads are new enough that they're not problematic. That's the road that we're frustrated about.
Georgia lanes.
Yeah.
Disregard, okay. Okay, that was.
So, Charlie, is that accurate? Is there money in escrow that's been in escrow that long?
Don't know. I hope
To
not.
resurface that road? I can't
Well, I can share
imagine that.
We can share the cost breakdown, like what we have to pay, it was provided.
So
For the Georgia part, or for the Halcyon part at some future day?
Well, no, it was for the phase 1 was to Georgia because it was still a lake project then. So there was a requirement that allowed for the road to be resurfaced.
After.
But that was for the Halcyon portion of the Georgia
Yeah.
Street,
Oh,
not for. portion
Not
of
for the old part.
I can look into that, find out exactly where that money is, and why it hasn't been spent yet, and talk to some people up the food chain and figure out how we get that spent, but.
And that's my understanding, I mean, that's how I understood it back then, 2019-ish, if I remember properly.
Wow.
Oh, anything else for the applicant or for staff, commissioners?
I
Go ahead.
was gonna say on the connectivity, the street connectivity, I know we've all had numerous conversations, I support the residents on the pathway, I think. That makes a lot of sense, when it started, it was a tough day, right? If you want to go back for a history lesson, I agree with what's been said. We as developers agree, we'd much prefer to have this what it was originally designed for. But keeping in mind of the safety of the residents and flooding mitigation concerns and all the stuff we put in our original report. That's why we pivoted, right? Should that lake fail, we have hundreds of residents who would have been, you know, potentially flooded or adversely affected from that. So we pivoted at that point and left that cul-de-sac with the mindset that that's why you buy a cul-de-sac, was to have that exclusivity in mind for traffic. So I agree that I don't personally think that makes sense from a resident, from a developer, but you know, we'll support whatever the county needs to do from a protective standpoint.
Anything else? Anything else you have? Okay, good, okay. All right, commissioners. Well. I got a word or two about expectation. I grew up in this area. I'm 60 years old. Farm, family steel farms. My expectations was there wouldn't be one of these houses out here existing today. But because we all have property rights and the right to sell this property for its best value, that's how we end up with people living in areas where my expectation went unfulfilled. Which leads us to where we are kind of today. We have an expectation that these folks that live in this subdivision had an expectation of what they're seeing and what they bought into was never going to change. We have an expectation of these folks over here in this subdivision that are smaller lots having an expectation that was met when they signed the documentation on the paper. Well, everybody got their expectation one time. I had it when I was a very young man. It'll never be that same expectation again. So, having said that, and having been on this commission for a number of years and seeing all of these progressions and changes, it's difficult for me to sit here and say, well, it's not fair that these folks didn't get this, or these folks got that, or this park district is doing this. Everybody here is doing the best they can at the moment with the information in front of us to make the county a better place for everyone to live. Whether people all agree with it or disagree with it, that's never going to happen simultaneously. That people all think it's a beautiful thing. But it's the best we have, best we can do with what we have in front of us at the time. Does it look like a mess to me looking at this map compared to the way it looked like up there where that number 4093 is, which is a farm that I grew up actually renting these farms from the Anselmis, part of DeGiorgio's for a while until it started developing, currently leased the Martini place until it's gone away. My expectation of this area is gone. It's gone. It'll never be back. So I want people to realize that just because they have an expectation or had an expectation dashed, it's not the end of the world. What we need to do going forward is make the best out of what we have. To address the park situation, I think the parks are very important, especially going forward with higher density. People need a place to recreate. Not everybody can afford a larger lot. That's why, you know, economically, it's forced everyone into rethinking lot sizes and densities because people just can't afford to have families and live on a 1 acre lot. The ones that have gotten in there and can make that work, good for them. I think it's great. But also you gotta take into consideration some people that are getting a little bit older who don't want that acre lot anymore, but wanna live in this area still. They want that connection to the community that they lived in. So I think taking all of this into consideration and giving it some deep thought, it's like, what's the best thing to do with that 10 acres of ground? Over time, if that doesn't become a park, which it's not going to, it's going to turn into a weed patch that nobody's gonna be proud of. And then 15 or 20 years from now, somebody's gonna come in and say, that's a great place for some apartment buildings or some real high density stuff. And that's where it's gonna go. I guarantee at that time, it'll get approved. So again, what's the best situation for what we have in front of us? Well, the best situation that we have to go with is to get this developed out, make the connectivity as best that we can, Get that pathway lined up as best we can, because to Charlie's point, can we resurrect any of this old stuff and make it work with the new stuff? No, pretty difficult. But we gotta do the best that we can, and I think that's what our intention is. I feel that this is a very good commission that we have here, very open-minded. Always thinking about things that are out of the box. We have a great staff that provides us great information to make those decisions on. And as far as I'm concerned, this is a good proposal. I do have one question though, and it does have to do with water. In our work session, we talked about the $7,500 park fee. That's been accomplished, but I don't see that there's been any other water that may be available to the park district. And that was something that I specifically asked for and did not get addressed. So I'd like to get some comment on that.
Yeah, I think that as we go forward and get understanding from Hooper Irrigation for water requirements for the proposed developments, there's certainly opportunity to work with Park District on that. Absolutely. And we haven't varied from that. So if we won't put that in the notes, that's absolutely fine.
Okay.
So the expectation is the water that's with the land is going to support the properties going in, and whatever's left over will be donated to the Parks District.
Yeah, it could be part of that whole donations package.
Okay.
Absolutely.
What?
How do you determine what's left?
So
Yes, sir.
I can answer that.
No, how do you determine how much is technically left over? So it's water shares, they can. Right?
They can be, but the water was purchased with the land or came with the land, and so the water will stay with the land. And then whatever doesn't need to be used for the development would be donated to the Parks District.
I think say that I don't think water stays with the land.
It can, but I'm just saying the expectation is that open space had a certain amount of water. And so we are forcing it to be donated.
That's my
with it,
question, is
yeah.
how do we assure that the amount that is with it right now is gonna be measured and get whatever the Parks District.
Sure.
I think I have a solution for that. We can, working with the applicant and with, Hooper Irrigation, figure out exactly what they think is needed for each of these homes.
Yeah.
One thing we know that we're working on hard is water conservation. We need to really do something great about that. We've got a work session about it happening in just a minute here. And so if we could do something in this new development, similar to what we've done in recently approved developments where we've got xeriscaping going on, and xeriscaping doesn't mean no scaping, it doesn't mean no vegetation, it just means lawns basically, or very minimal amounts of lawns. Vegetation that has drip irrigation or underground irrigation, not overhead sprinkler irrigation that evaporates very quickly. That said, if we can get something like that, and if we can convince Hooper Irrigation that that is the right thing to do, there might be a very small amount of irrigation water that needs to be assigned to this. Keeping in mind, we've got to both make Taylor, West River Water happy and Hooper Irrigation happy. And when I say we, I mean the developer. Well, I know what you mean. Them happy. So we can figure out whatever they think is necessary and keep it assigned to the property and take the rest. If we can get that to development down, right?
Yeah, I don't know state law for water requirements for residential land, what that looks like, but we're 100% on board with water conservation and making sure those shares are available to support park. Does that answer your question?
Anything else, Commissioner? I have a few items.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, we've talked about, we brought up, I agree with everything you said, Chair. We brought up property rights. And the way that I see it, or the way that I understand it, is there is no property rights with this right now. They got that when they got their high density in the first place. It was mentioned by one of our citizens that they could do 1 acre lots. They don't even have that right now. Everything that we do to give them is a favor at this point, because they've already got their rights, they've already got everything out of it. Now, the commissioners, not planning commissioners, but our actual commissioners, have made statements numerous times that we're willing to do things like this, because we've all seen how these turn into weed lots, and they end up being an eyesore, like the chair mentioned. But there has to be a trade that overwhelmingly, I don't know, can't speak right, but benefits the community, okay? For me, whether, I don't feel like we should be rezoning the previously plotted homes or whatever, however we're gonna state that. It should just be this new one. However, we should be collecting the 75, or we should be asking for that donation of the 7,500 for every house that they got already, even in the phase one. Not even not even the ones that we were saying, oh, we're only gonna rephase, rezone a certain amount of those ones that are already existing. No, every one of those houses that was existing, that was the impression from the parks, from their meetings and their comments. They were anticipating that. I hold strongly that that's what it should be. They got that in the beginning, they should be ending up for every house, and that's what our discussion 2 years ago, whenever we talked about this before, was. So I feel like I'm very strong on that still with the water. Let me see, how real other things here. I just want to clarify, just because of one of the comments from one of our citizens, that they said that nothing, as far as the cul-de-sac goes and that pathway through there, they said nothing would be ideal, but they would be maybe willing to do the trail, right? We can't force them to even do the trail. If they can't work it out with the developer, then it's not gonna happen, right? They still have that right. I just wanna make sure they understand they have the right to refuse that still.
The apple.
No, sorry, the neighbor, or whoever owns that piece, they would be cutting the trail through, does not have to sell to him or allow that to come through, whatever that negotiation is.
Yes, now that question is whether or not you will allow the development to occur if that connection cannot happen.
Right.
That's what happened over in the Winston Park, who basically said if you want phase two to happen, you need to have this connection.
Yeah.
Charlie, it appears though that the cul-de-sac, the end of the cul-de-sac abuts the other property.
Yep.
So there is already a right of way there. They don't need to purchase any private property.
It's a tangent line, and so it comes to a point at the.
Oh, because of the circle. I see.
Okay. So I guess in summary for me, 7,500 for every house or every lot that they've sold previously and are going to sell. Every one of them. Water. Trail, ideally trail coming through that pathway. There's one other thing that I really want to make sure. Sorry, I have too many notes. But that's my summary for that. But I wanted to say one more thing for the parks. I know that it's hard to see a park sitting there. We've had this discussion numerous times of, oh, it's sitting there, it's not being used. But we truly do need those for the citizens in this area. Plain City, West Haven are the ones supporting us right now for recreation for all of our youth and keeping them in those activities, right? They're getting tired of, they can't hold us anymore. It's just too overwhelming for them. There's too many citizens with us coming in with their own citizens plus taking us on. At some point, they're gonna kick us out. All of them have said that, so we need to be looking and planning for that. So that's my argument for the parks as well. I think that's it. Apologize.
I got some questions. So Charlie, bring me up to speed here. I wasn't around when Halcyon Estates. Charlie?
Okay.
Sorry, you're multitasking.
Trying to multitask.
I don't think most of the people on here around this are approved, so this was the zone. That they got extra density, and I heard that. So that they could go ahead and donate this 10 acres back to these people more or less. In the form of open space, and it sounds to me, and I don't know the particulars of it, that they had a ski pond. That was gonna go in, so what happened to ski pond, and are you the same developer? Same one?
Do you want to project me address this?
Yeah, go with that.
Yeah, same developer, and the lake was there originally. What happened to it was significant expense in engineering and study to see if it was feasible. It was approved by the county as a concept, but after tremendous expense, it just wasn't feasible. There's too much risk to the developer and to the surrounding neighborhood should that lake fail.
Well, let me ask you another question then. Was any of that concept presented to these people that maybe have bought some of those homes that
Yes.
were interested in ski pond? And did any of them have?
They weren't interested in the ski pond because there was no lakes to be, or there was no lots available at that point. But the people in that cul-de-sac, when they bought, that was part of the concept at that point, yes.
So Brad's not the
Brad's
only one.
point, yeah.
I wonder why more people aren't.
Well, sir, when they were doing the ski, they were asking like $300,000 to $400,000 per lot, where you go back to the time that they were sold, lots are going, once they deviated from the C, it dramatically dropped the price, so I don't think anyone who purchased in that actual subdivision ever intended on the ski lake, it was acre lots that came available at an affordable price, and people were seeking the design.
Okay, I understand, that's,
The layout of the subdivision was completely different, Jim.
No.
yeah, well,
Much-
yeah, let me get to my point. So now that the planning commission that was here, it's not now, made that agreement with not only the developer, they made it with everybody that purchased it. I don't know why the developer hasn't gone and maybe got support throughout the community. I can't vote for this unless everybody signed off on it. I think as a planning commission, we'd be going back and dirtying our reputation if we did that. And I'm not saying nothing stays the same, because it doesn't. What I'm saying is, if the developer got in, he's obviously okay, he's here, he's still able to breathe in. And he didn't fulfill his promise, and just because the ski lake was too not affordable, there's other things you could do there for the. But he never bothered to do that. He never made any effort on it. In fact, it sounds to me like is the reason for the delay on the park across the street, is that his problem or ours? It's not his.
The delay on the park is the Parks District's delay. That's not,
Okay,
that's not Weaver County or the developer for that matter.
so in good conscience, I can't do that to anybody that's bought, that was promised something that the county put in writing at one time.
Mr. McCormick, I don't disagree with you, but I'm not sure that we're understanding it correctly. I don't know that they did buy it with thinking that they were gonna have that pond there. They bought it after.
I
that was
just heard
canceled.
Brad, what did you think?
No, the lake was gone. It was gone.
Well, I'm not talking about lake, I'm talking
Oh,
about
just
the
the
open
open
space.
space, okay, yeah. And I think I was counting that earlier, and I think it's 8 houses that truly affects, right? Is there 8 houses that border that would change their view or what their neighborhood is? True, I mean, I know it changes the whole dynamic of the neighborhood by adding more people there, but ones that are gonna have new neighbors, bordering neighbors, it's only 8 houses.
And you keep complaining about weeds, I don't mind. I drive up 400 south and sagebrush and weeds, I love going. They don't bother me a bit.
Chet, this might help with perspective. The way the cluster subdivision was written, and correct me if I'm wrong, it wasn't a part for the residents, it was just open space in general that was privately owned, is that correct?
Privately owned agricultural land.
It was privately owned agricultural land. So us rezoning this isn't different than anyone else in Weaver County that lives next to privately owned agriculture land. The idea behind the cluster subdivision wasn't to provide an amenity for the residents or even to create perpetual open space. It was to protect ag land, because that's what we wanted to do at the time. And we found that was a poor direction. And right now, we are developing everyone's next door neighbor ag land, privately owned ag land. So it's different than maybe if they were paying for it as an HOA amenity, but they had no ownership, maybe an expectation, but we've talked about expectations, but I mean, near us, the church owned a park and the church sold it because they're a private entity that can sell their land, and the residents were so mad they didn't have the park anymore. But the truth is, it was for sale, and if they wanted it, they could have bought it. It was privately owned land, and this is privately owned land. And just like any other ag land. So I don't know if someone has a different perspective on it, but that's the way I see it. And it's unfortunate, but it goes back to expectations. If we don't own the land, we don't control the land.
Well, if they didn't own the land, how could they think about putting a ski pond there?
It was privately owned, and if these residents were going to have a ski pond to their access, they would have been paying for it. And this private land never developed into a ski pond, and they've not paid any money for a ski pond, except for possibly an expectation. But when you live next to a private property, you can't control the private property.
Yeah, nobody bought into the ski pond at all, and that's why the lots went down in price. That was just what was originally proposed, right? So they bought into saying, hey, there's some private open space over here. I don't get to go and do anything on it, but it's just gonna be to where I don't have to look at it on their house, basically is what they bought. And the other thing that they may have bought that I really wanna make sure that we, don't change is their zoning, right? They bought into that zoning and we don't wanna change the zoning on them. They made it to where you can't have the animals or buildings that they were from this town. In that A1 zone.
Right.
I still have a little bit of heartburn with it, but as you do, Jed, I understand.
Well, I'm sure there were promises made.
Yeah,
Well, the promise was made, you're right, it was developed under a cluster subdivision code, no doubt, yeah. But to the point of who owns that property, who controls that property. Yeah, someone owns it, someone controls it, someone has the right to do something else.
This is different than farm.
Yeah, you could say that, but technically it's not. I don't think, my opinion.
It is. Okay. All in good conscience, I can't vote for it, but there's only one means.
Commissioners, any further?
I just have something, I agree with Commissioner on the end, McCormick.
I'll vote you.
I've noticed a pattern of developers coming into Western Weaver County and saying, oh, we're gonna put a ski lake in, oh, we're gonna put a parking in your neighborhood, oh, we're gonna do this, that, or the other. And then it's time for phase 2 and suddenly those things disappear. Oh, you can have horses, oh, sorry, now you can't. I think we need to be very careful when we walk that line. I understand that there's rules and regulations that we follow and requirements are met and then we have to approve them, but I also think that we have a duty to our community members to notify them when they think a park is going into their subdivision, then suddenly that park becomes 25 houses. And whether that falls on us, probably not, but I think there should be a little bit more conversation so that people understand what changes are gonna happen in their neighborhood. Yes, their expectations have changed, but I think we can still have conversations.
Oh, I agree, we're having that conversation tonight.
Yes.
And since we know that we can't notify everybody, and even if we did, who would show up? And it's not a function of the planning commission to make sure that everybody knows. I think that's up to the citizenship to stay tuned in to what's going on in their neighborhood. And so many times over the years, we've heard, people stand up and say, I didn't know anything about this. Okay, do you know what your neighbor's having for breakfast? You know what your neighbor's having for dinner? No, but if you wanna know, you'll go ask. And I'm not saying you're wrong, I'm just saying that it's almost an impossibility to make sure that everybody knows what every action is that's happening when it comes to the development of the community. Charlie, I think you were wanting to say something?
I just like to move the mic around.
Oh, okay.
I'm just kidding, no, I just wanna make sure it's clear that everyone within 500 feet of this property received notice about and proposed results.
Right.
We are obligated within 500.
Right.
however, I feel like we need to clarify, because I think the discussion is valid and it's good, but it's not what the discussion is right now. This wasn't a park. This wasn't owned, this wasn't community property.
Right.
It was just, they bought into something knowing what was gonna be their surrounding. I still feel like those rights, they've lost their rights, and that's why we have to consider it, but I don't want to sound like they're getting a park taken away from them, because they never had a park.
Right, and they never had a water model.
Right.
And these folks know that because they didn't buy into that development, because that development never came to plat. It never came to be for sale. So.
But Emily, your point is very valid.
It is.
Yeah, but I don't think it's exactly applicable to this situation, but in many others, yes, for sure.
And that's more.
Yeah, right, I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Okay. Having said all that, any more discussion?
Just really quickly on the cul-de-sac dead end road, if this was designed as a stub road, to me, it would be a no-brainer. You build a house on a stub road, you know that road's gonna go through it. It was built as a cul-de-sac and it makes me sad because I live in an area without connectivity and we have to make circles around, and this is. If you look to the east, there's just nothing going through between 1400s and 1800.
and it's unfortunate. But is it worth putting the road through or trying to force the pathway through? And I don't know that it is. I wish that we could, and if the developer wants to approach the homeowners there. But, that is one aspect, the one aspect of an expectation that we probably.
Well, I think that now's the time. We get one shot at this. And so if there's anything out there that we want, to Commissioner DeVel's point, and I agree with what he had to say. That now's the time to ask for them, because yeah, they were entitled already on this property. They've already sold their lots. And they've already developed, you know, or at least they're point of being fully developed on the rest of that. So when you make your motion, make it accordingly.
I think, Sarah, just to your point. Now, and to Andrews, we should ask for it, because the citizens that would affect, they will be able to, they've said their piece here tonight on whether they like this or not, and that they might consider a pathway through. Let them decide if this development goes through by allowing a pathway.
Oh, so you would block the whole development on whether the pathway
I
goes
think
through?
it should, and if it has to come back, it has to come back.
Well,
I mean, I don't know if
it will, if the developer's not able to negotiate with those property owners to get what we asked for. This thing dies.
Yeah.
So,
And then you can reconsider, well, did we really need it that bad, if they come back through the process.
and that's why I say, ask for everything you want in your motion. I can't make the motion, so
So
ask for
in
everything
the-
you want.
Something else the residents have requested is the expedition of this process, and so I'd hate to belabor it more. So my recommendation would,
If they want to be expedited once it starts, they don't necessarily need this expedited. I think this should go through the process that it needs to go through. Construction phase, yeah, they want that expedited, so.
Well-
just back there.
I miss connectivity, and I would be okay with losing the connectivity, the pathway at that cul-de-sac, but definitely we can make the connectivity on the west side easily, and I agree with you on phase one to make sure.
She said, it's not my, it might benefit them, so I say leave it in if you want, and let's see.
Well,
She was talking about road though.
No, she said a trail, she said, I have it written down, she said,
We'd rather none.
Yeah.
nothing, but if it had to be a trail, then a trail.
I mean, Sarah.
Yeah, I would like a road, but if I think the development won't move forward if we make it contingent on that pathway, and I think for the need of the area, I'd rather see it go through without that particular pathway than to be blocked for more years. Cause who knows what it turns into in years down the road. So that's my concern. I agree with you. We need 7,500 for every parcel or every lot, not just the ones that will be rezoned. Water that has been used for that land or that's associated with that land stays either with the land or the Parks District. What were the other things that we were considering? Definitely upgrading the other staff recommendations, all the staff recommendations, but adding the donation that's not included on the recommendations, but we do need to include that on the recommendations if we'd like to see it, correct?
Which donation?
The 7,500.
Yeah, so that is in there for actually it's in there for the existing residents, so it's in there in the staff report.
I don't see it on staff recommendation.
Oh, you know, it's probably because it was proposed by the applicant, and so.
Right.
I'm recommending, okay, I see what you're saying, yep, I'm recommending we do what the applicant is asking for, which is in the template development agreement already, the 7,500.
So we'll make sure we include it in the staff recommendation, in our recommendations. And the water, I'd say a 3-year term with a 1-year extension is adequate for a community development this small. And yeah, so I'd say so I have 4. Item 4 would be the donation. Item 5, I've listed the 3-year term with 1-year extension. 6, the pathway to Bristol on the west side, and 7 would be water currently associated with the property stays with the property, and the rest is donated to the Parks District. So those are the things
I've included, and I'm okay with it at that point to move forward personally, but. I don't know if there's,
Bring my toes. Processing, or did you mention the pathway in that or no pathway?
I guess we could put pathway to the east and then if possible, so they can approach the homeowners and see if, I think it would be.
You say if possible, he said, oh, I asked him.
He's already forgot about that.
Yeah.
Well,
I think it needs the pathway on both sides.
I think it needs a pathway, but given the option of no development. Or a development missing one pathway. And, but I'm not,
Ideal. If it's not ideal, but these are the neighbors. That's my argument, so I will.
there
I'll
are
just
two
say-
neighbors in a whole community of people, and I'm saying the two neighbors. Will give up the not putting a road through that's necessary for the community, and I'm willing to give up not putting a pathway through that's necessary for the community. But leaving the patch there that could improve the rest of the community. That I'm not willing to do.
Yes. Okay, great.
Yes.
Charlie, will you just reiterate one more time how nice that pathway would be to connect as far as it did?
How would you like me to restate it?
But it's not happening, that's what I'm saying, is they're not going to approve it if we ask for the pathway.
You don't know that. You don't know that, that's negotiations for him, it's just like the other one that we did on the other side of 12th Street.
Yeah.
We asked them to go and negotiate, and we required it, and if it doesn't go through, they have to come back through the process.
Yep.
Okay, I see where you're coming from.
All right, on that note, I'm gonna ask for a
No,
motion.
no, I get it, I
Alright.
just don't let prolong it, but.
We're kibitzing.
I like to give those. Yes.
Commissioners, I'll ask for a motion on this item. And keep in mind that motion to table is also on the table. Don't everybody talk at once.
Sarah, it's gonna process a little bit.
You're the one who wants to look at it your way, you propose it your way.
I'd be fine motioning the table, but I don't know what more discussion I need on that, I'd be having the same. Right, and I'm just saying, that's just wasting everything's.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, clarifying the question, Charlie. If, what I'm saying is, what I'm saying true, if it doesn't go through because they can't work out a deal with these residents to get the pathways through and the landowner on the west as well, that development. Then do they have to go through the whole proposal process again, or what happens there?
I think the chair actually has a pretty good handle on that, if we don't say you've got to go back through reconsideration, it's too easy for either the applicant or the landowners next door to say, nah, we're. So I think that is important, I do think you should try and get it now, and if it is impossible to get it. Then the county needs to figure out how important is the county to work with the applicant and the landowners to try and acquire that property as well. We've got different means of doing so. Don't know if we would, but it's always worth that conversation after a healthy, willing buyer, willing seller, market-based negotiation has happened.
So I guess what I'm asking is, what's the process for Keith? If we put it in there, can't work out a deal with them, this whole thing is over and he has to reapply and go through the payment, the process and the pain of dealing with you again and all. And but it's like, is that the process for this applicant?
Yes.
Okay.
But also there's the possibility that the county commission can drop that certain requirement that we're asking for.
Yes,
That's the recommendation.
well, also, that's actually a good point. The development agreement is only enforceable to the extent that each party enforces on the other person. I probably shouldn't be stating this, I should heavily say this, but, so if the county doesn't want to enforce a provision in there, unless the developer wants to enforce it on himself. And there's always a possibility that we can decide.
Okay, so I think I'm okay making the recommendation, because I would really like to see the pathway through. I won't ask for a road, I think that's too much to ask for. I think a pathway is, reasonable to at least ask for.
And you're getting like.
Yeah, well, in part, I wanted a road, but I gotta make sessions. All right,
Ready for a motion?
yes.
Okay.
So we already have.
You thought so? Okay, I'm making a motion that we recommend approval of item ZDA 2025-03.
Sorry, I made a mistake on the previous one. Previous one was not ZBA 2025-03. It was ZMA 2025-03. Yeah, the one that we're talking about now is ZMA 2025-05.
Okay, so it is correct. Okay. Let's start that again. I'd like to follow a positive recommendation of item 3.2 ZMA 2025-05 regarding an application to rezone the Halcyon Estates subdivision from agricultural to residential R115 zone. With the following recommendations. The three in our staff report, use of the county's standard development agreement template, street tree installation or donation consistent with county standards. 3, upgrading sidewalk along 1800 South to a multi-use pathway as right-of-way allows. I'll add condition, recommendation or condition 4, a $7,500 donation. I thought of something, per lot for all the existing and new lots of the, all phases of Halcyon Estates. I'm saying, and let's see, number 5, 3-year term with a 1-year extension, optional 1-year extension on the development agreement. Number 6, the pathway to Bristol on the west to 4250. Let's see, west be included, and also a pathway from the cul-de-sac at 1700 south to 4125 west be included, and that the rezone be limited to the last phase of Halcyon. Someone can look at adjustments to this thing too. This is based on the findings that are in our staff report.
Okay, that's staff with that, the director, if that makes sense, that what stated as far as
For the
that.
rezone.
I got stuck on pathway on the east side. What came right after that? 7.
Oh, number 6.
Oh.
Did I include number 7? I'm going to amend this right now.
Well, it hasn't been seconded.
It haven't been seconded. Okay, number 7 is water stays with property and any extra water is donated, that's not needed for the developments, is donated to the Parks District. And number 8 is that the rezone is limited to the phase 3,
Final phase.
the final phase of Halcyon Estate subdivision. How are we doing?
Yeah, we're.
Okay.
John, just one question, was just the one phase what we wanted it, what you recommended, Charlie?
Originally, I recommended looking at the whole thing,
Whole
but after
thing.
this discussion, it's the final phase that exists is what I recommended, plus the 10 acres that.
Plus the new, that's, I thought there were 2.
Yes, and that's what I heard, right?
No.
No, I said
Just the final.
final phase,
Just this one.
final phase plus the 10 acres.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
then you're good, yeah,
Okay, so we're good,
Because we need to,
because those other ones already have homes on them, right, people literally, so they want to change their zone, that's the whole.
I think there's a little bit of misunderstanding. Is it the final phase of Halcyon plus this 10 acres, or is it just this 10 acres?
Oh, sorry, just 10 acres, unless the other ones haven't been developed yet.
Okay, and is that in your?
oh,
That's what you were thinking.
well, we just didn't want the rezone to apply to certain phases.
To the
There was
bigger
one
ones.
phase that was okay.
They don't want to, I personally.
Didn't want to apply to the bigger
apply to
ones.
anybody that already lives there.
And if that's
Oh, then we will limit it just to the 10 acres.
just the 10 acres.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amend number 8, it will, the rezone will only be applied to the 10 acres, and note that, but the $7,500 donation is to the entire Halcyon Estates lots. Existing and new on the 10 acres.
I don't care how sloppy it is, you can't get it right.
Okay, yeah. On the development agreement, we limited it to 3 years. Does that mean built, under construction?
They have to be in subdivision at that point,
They have to file the subdivision application.
Within 3 years,
within 3 years.
just file for subdivision.
Refile on the same subdivision.
Well, this is, that's subdivision, we're just doing rezone right now. So they'd have 3 years to get to
See
subdivision,
what they want.
yeah.
Is it fair to ask a clarifying question on that? Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. It was
Charlie,
complicated.
I know, so you mentioned on that may make it where the development agreement is void, right? If they go past that, does that mean they still get all this stuff, but the development agreement doesn't go with it if they go on the 4th year?
That is a great question, and in the standard development agreement, it says after expiration, the zone reverts.
Okay.
I think with that short time frame, what I would recommend we do is make a little bit of an adjustment in the development agreement to say, if it is platted, the zone stays, development agreement goes away. If it's platted and the development agreement is executed, zone stays and the development agreement goes away. But if it's not, then it reverts. So we do that.
Parties are held to what they need.
So we need to add that to the motion.
No.
In the
no,
development
okay,
agreement.
yeah.
All right. Okay, we clear? All right, now, got a motion, I'll ask for a second.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Commissioner Rogers,
Yay.
Commissioner Ricker,
Aye.
Commissioner Novell,
Aye.
Commissioner.
Hi.
Uncle Jeff,
Nay.
chair votes aye, motion carries 5-1. Thank you, I think we beat that one to death. Okay. Now, folks, this will go through another process with the county commission, so you'll get notification, right, Charlie and Liam on county commission?
By virtue of the county commission agenda, there's not additional,
Notification.
mailings or anything like this.
So make sure that you're watching the notifications. The state has a website to get notifications. You can sign up for it. I can't remember the email, the address to go to sign up for that. But you can sign up and you can have it send to your email notifications. And also in Frontier, I would assume, right?
Yep, Frontier, and you can also get to the state's notification website through ours.
Cause you can follow it through and go to those meetings, because those meetings are very important. They're the ones that actually make the decision on this. We have forwarded now positive recommendation from the planning commission to the commission. So there's really where the rubber hits the road, is with those folks.
Okay, those usually like within the next week, is it a schedule, or does it just happen to be whatever they can fit into their schedule during?
The last one, it's pretty variable, but also depends on how quickly we can get things worked out with the applicant and craft these final development. So,
Thank you. And thank you all for coming out. We do appreciate. I wish the place was full. But thank you for coming out. Okay, next item on our agenda, public comment for items not on tonight's agenda. That's all I want to know.
someone stay there.
Okay. Remarks from the planning commissioners.
Okay. Hey, just a suggestion, and I don't want anybody to beat me up in the parking lot for this. But I know.
I think he was listening to you.
10 years ago, we talked about getting rid of requiring our staff to hand deliver these giant packets of paper tools. And if I remember correctly, there was a few on this one, so I don't want to offend anybody, but also Ogden Valley insisted that they had hard copies. I know that there's not as many deliveries now because Ogden Valley is not, or there won't be, I'm not sure where we're at, but there won't be as many deliveries. But if we're worried about paper, I feel like personally, I don't need a hand delivered packet. I can pull up on my email. I feel really bad when I see Iris or one of the other staff members pulling up to my house to walk this up to my porch. And I'm not sure that I feel like it's a valuable use of our resources.
It is.
That's just my.
I want them.
Okay. See,
I think it's good to write.
Yeah.
See, I get that too, but I also, if I really wanted that, I would print it off or whatever.
I want it.
But yeah.
They need to be used.
You gotta stop and pay for it.
So the alternative they discussed was everyone having an iPad.
Right.
And so that was the alternative.
I can't take this for a living.
So again, that was just my thoughts on it, cause when I see them, like.
Is that still something you guys wanna talk about, the possibility of handing out iPads at the beginning of the year and just doing electronic, or would you rather stick with paper?
Yeah, iPad would be fine, with me. I don't necessarily have. a problem with that.
Okay.
It's recording.
I wanna say that, but she's a paper person.
So no.
In the meantime.
Here, Jed, both of us.
I do, but I guess if there's some that don't want it, that's fine too. But I won't.
Just so you know, the difference between the farmer and that developer is the farmer hasn't made money off the developer's land.
There you go. It was all good discussion. It was a good end to that meeting, and it's been going on for a long time, so. I know, I know how people feel, and I know what expectation is like, and expectation shouldn't even exist. Other than through our code. That's where the expectation is, and whatever that code says at the moment, that's the expectation.
On this particular one, what changed it for me is 2 years ago, whenever we reviewed it previously, we had a lot more citizens that were against it. Tonight it was only one, and the other two that spoke, or three, he spoke against it last time, if I remember correctly. So the fact that they're on board with it now and they understand how things are going. I mean, they're changing.
You got a good name, so.
Not necessarily, but.
There was one thing that I could change about when the public addresses anyone for that matter in this forum. I just wish they would try less to make it sound like it's us that's bringing this development and forcing it on them.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Wishes
were wishes. Go ahead.
I refrain myself from jumping in. You did a great job with that. Thank you so much. But I think one of the bigger pictures is the field is changing faster every day on housing, water use. And I get the fact that the people buy into things. But by the time that first lot sold, it's really been overcome by events. The only way we're ever gonna meet any kind of affordable housing, they'll still call it that, it's gotta be smaller. Probably smaller homes.
I agree on that.
And it's the future, that's the thing we've gotta get in our minds, that's the future. Out where I live, I used to think I had a pretty good house. Man, I mean, to tell you what, I'm living in the servant's house. The parade of homes is right over there. And, I get the fact that people come out because in Warren, we have plenty of space now. But the fact of the matter, there isn't one person in any of those houses, even a relative of a resident of ours now. And there's something wrong with that, because I have pretty close contact with the people in our town, and they all want their kids there. And they all say the same thing, they can't afford to live here.
They're all living in townhomes.
Well, that's an option.
I know, but
They can
smaller
afford-
lot, you get it right on the nose. Like that convertible housing that, I think it's Flagship brought in.
Yeah.
With 25, 30 foot front, that reduces the price of your lot by a third, maybe 2/3.
Yeah. And the other pressures is gonna be, in my mind, is, where the economy's going, what are we gonna do with all these people? Because to me, our zoning, in a way, needs to match what the community's needs are at the time. Used to be, they didn't change much. And in the last 4 years.
4 or 5 years, yeah.
It's changing daily now. And that's why I want to go down to the land use conference, because I want to know what the political end of the state's thinking. Because I think they're thinking about the same thing, the future. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. I know, my wife tells me I can't talk much.
Why? We
I
like
think
it.
she's tired of me.
Are you
talking.
That's just at home, I think.
And nobody rat me out to her.
Oh, thank you.
I feel a lot better.
Good, good. Yeah.
First time you've got to talk all day.
Yeah, it does, it comes down to that expectation thing, and the expectation needs to be what is current, so. Okay, anybody else?
We need to get it on record.
Oh, you all starting to sound like developers.
I guess I've been doing this too long, it's time to retire.
Yeah, I'm still driving.
Record AC, we're just gonna put that on the record again, air conditioning.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way,
Yes.
maybe if the commissioners could find it in their budget somewhere to buy some new chairs, because I'm sitting over here and I get this thing all the way up. And then I'm good, and then all of a sudden I move the wrong way.
Mine does
and all of a
too.
sudden-
I was gonna say, our chair is not sinking in despair, it really is this chair.
I think one of these days there's gonna be a trap for me.
Actually, right after I thought mine did it, I thought somebody in here was.
Messing with you.
Tiffany.
It is me, yeah. It's to get you guys to hurry.
Two things, so speaking of the land use institute, that is coming up next week, so. I don't know, have we got anyone who's?
I hope to go, but I haven't heard anything about it.
Oh, because Crystal Lynn, I talked to Rick about it. Rick talked to, I think, Crystal Lynn, and I think she only sent the link to Wayne and I.
Oh,
So
okay,
we could either forward it out or you can have her send it out again. That'd be good. I'm planning on going, I think it's Tuesday and Wednesday.
yeah, Tuesday, Wednesday next week, my understanding was Crystalline thought that no, the planning commission with exception of those who did. Responded, so if you haven't received it, I will talk to Crystalline just to make sure.
Are you guys, as a county, I know you're going down, so I'm assuming are you gonna have transportation down there?
Yeah, we'll make sure transportation happens, yep.
All right.
It may be possible that we've got limited funds for training, so maybe I don't know something that I should know, so. I'll talk to Crystal tomorrow, Rick's out of town until the end of the week, and so I'll chat with him if Crystal wants to say something.
Did everybody else go to Wayne and I didn't go, right? You didn't go to APA. No, and I didn't go to APA this time. We went last spring, but I'd like to go. There's a couple items. The whole thing looks good, but I only have time for the second on Tuesday or Wednesday, so I'd like to go to that one.
You're on the agenda for
Oh.
Tuesday.
Wednesday as well, but said don't come with big expectations. This one will obviously be a terrible.
Always, but there's a couple interesting things on there. One is, I think, what possibly gonna be in the legislative session coming up, so. I think it's a good one to go to if you have time, or if we have the funds, or whatever the case might be.
I'll figure it out and I'll have either Crystal or myself reach out to you.
I can't take any more of a pay cut, Charlie. I'm done.
We'll reward you with some water bottles or something.
Swag.
The second thing is that the county's working right now for the process of doing a pretty big update to this building. So things like decent AC and or heat at the appropriate times of the year, not in reverse order. That is on the list. I'll put chairs on that list as well. Yeah.
It must be a state thing because Weaver State's the same way.
Oh, yeah.
Always hot in the winter, super hot in the winter.
See, like all the schools go that way, just as they get the boiler working, it's summertime.
Okay, anything else?
That's it, thank you.
Thanks, Charlie, you did a great job. Liam, you did a great job also.
What makes my job easier is, and this is a true statement, is I have the utmost confidence in this group in this Western Weaver Planning Commission. You guys really do a good job. I think Cortland has to pay a lot more attention with the Ogden Valley. Or the motions motions are made, comments are made, everything that they get into is just, Cortland has to be on top of it, but you guys flow really well, do great with your motions. Yeah, you're procedurally, everything's done really well, and I just have the utmost confidence in all of you. So, Thanks for making my job easy.
Thank you, that means wow. And
You didn't feel that way until Brent was off the board.
And I tell you what's been nice and, you know, kind of to that end a little bit. We've been able to just plug another person in and keep going. And so thank you for that. We
I love
appreciate
that you feel that way.
Well, we do, and because it seems like, you know, first impressions, at least I always make my best impression on my first impression, and it's been good so far. Thank you very much. I think that you've done a good job, and you're catching on really quick. I don't think you're quite as novice as you try to make us think you are. Anyway, all right, so, anything else? So we should go ahead and adjourn, and go to our work session, or we want to do our work session tonight.
That is, I was actually just thinking that, it's up to you guys, we got half an hour, we can run through what we have in half an hour, or we can always go to next month. This does have to be done by the end of the year, but I don't see that.
Let's do it next time. Next time.
Yeah, so it doesn't have to be done until the end of the year.
Okay, that
It sounds like old.
So one, I can make it really quick, like, fast, like, we can do it right now, and it'll be like 1 minute.
Okay.
I want to give you guys, you like paper, right? So I got some paper right here.
Is this a Felix 1 minute or a Charlie 1 minute?
The Felix.
30 seconds for this.
We got some paper for you guys. So, I mean, I'm sure you guys have plenty of time on your, off the.
Tell you what, we better do first, Felix, hold that thought. We got to adjourn.
Yeah.
So, okay, so give me a motion to adjourn, if you want.
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Okay.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned now, we're in work session.
You're still recording.
Yep, I got some, I got two handouts for you guys, and what it is this is taken from the general plan, our existing. And then I also have what I would like to do with the general plan amendments. And that's here, it's under the track changes, it's just a Word document. So what I do is I reference the page number, I also reference sections. And then that way you can kind of see, okay, which pages of the general plan are being affected by this amendment. And then it tells you exact language, so you guys can become a little bit more familiar. And then that way, when we get together for a work session next month, you'll have a pretty good understanding. Maybe we can even get together for a public hearing if that's, I don't know if that's what however you guys feel, so.
You guys have your work session is next month, right? Yeah.
Yes.
We can do a work session and then the week after do a public hearing, unless the work session, everything falls apart and tell us we did a terrible job, then we can cancel the hearing.
So we can get the information tonight, be going over and have it in our work session because it's a work session month and then, and schedule it.
Or if there's nothing else on the work session, everyone feels good about the paperwork they've seen, they can just go straight to public hearing.
Well, if that's the case.
Can I interject? The fourth Tuesday is election day, so we don't have a work session. Just FYI.
Thanks.
Save like.
Every time, Janet.
First, yeah.
You just have to go another.
Careful for you.
Another month.
There'll be 3 in December. That's what I'm telling you. I'm kidding.
It's a bad month.
Thank you. For releases. Yeah.
No, I'm good, thanks, Casey.
Did I take this away? Was this your,
Are we finished? What's going on?
Yeah.
We done.
So stop recording?
Yep. Well, last thing on the agenda with this work session item, this is some general plan amendments that would actually implement some of the things that the Water Conservation Committee, Water Conservation Stakeholder Committee has recommended, and also some recommendations from the Department of Water Resources. And we've also looked at the Senate bill that it guides what should be included with all general plans. In this case, it has a specific section, the Senate bill has a specific section in for counties And that's kind of what we're trying to accomplish with some of these amendments is, get this information, get it into the general plan. And also update some of the things that are in the general plan. So on this first page, page 141, is we're gonna kind of cross-reference between these two documents. So page 141, at the top, that first paragraph, I've done some edits to that first paragraph, and it starts on line 3. And it's throughout the 2025, the Western Weaver Water Conservation Stakeholder Committee met as an advisory board to recommend amendments to the general plan to create additional actions that would accomplish the water conservation goals. The goals of water districts and the goals of the Utah Division of Water Resources. The stakeholder committee is also eligible in providing county with estimated water demand. The water demand statistics based on land use categories should be updated regularly as better information becomes available. And so going on to, so this same page, we also have an edit to that table from Taylor West Weaver Water District. So Taylor West Weaver provided us with their water conservation plan. In it, it had these numbers. So I was able to, I'm gonna update that table with these numbers that you see on line number 13.
Hey, Felix.
Yes.
Gallons per day, I'm looking at what is on page 41 of the plan, and I'm looking what's on in their table. I'm curious whether or not maybe the units are different. That's a really, really big difference.
It is a big difference.
310 million gallons per day versus 752,000.
Yep, it is quite a bit different. I used those numbers and I still use the same divisors to come up with the gallons per day and the gallons per capita per day, and see that they seemed like a logical increase based on the number of the number of the gallons per day. So I think that's something that I probably need to verify with Taylor West Weaver, with Ryan Rogers.
Yeah, and it might be a unit conversion or something like that. There's the difference there, but
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I did notice that. I was looking at the number of gallons, but so that's my intention is to get this table updated and accurate with the latest numbers from Taylor West Weaver. And then going on to page 142, which coincides with line number 16, is you'll notice on the right-hand side of page 142, it's just a red block, and you've got some information from the Utah Division of Water Resources. And my plan was to add a little bit of language to it. You can see that it starts out that the Utah Division of Water Resources has set a goal to reduce the Weaver River Basin's per capita water consumption by 20% by 2030. They further desire to reduce it by 30% by the year 2065. And then here I would add the division provided some valuable feedback in September 2024 for amendments that will set timelines for action items, continue coordination with water providers, identify agriculture ground you want to protect, and create a water demand projection overlaid on the future water supply projection. So that last line where it talks on line number 20, create a water demand project overlaid, I would imagine that would be another table that would be added to show, what is the expected water demand in comparison with what we actually have available. See, how they track, if we're going to be running into trouble 20 years from now, based on our projected growth. And then line 22 would remain the same as that second paragraph on page 142. Any suggestions right there? Does that make sense? Any comments? I think we could probably do a little wordsmithing as far as, making a little more clarity and making it, but if you have any suggestions, Okay, so going on to the line number 24. Now we're getting into some of the things that were recommended from the Department of Water Resources that we work on and include with the plan. And so they recommended that we reach out to the Department of Ag and Food. And I did so. I completed that on September 17th. And I added that as an action item on 1.2.11. So we'll get to that in a minute, and I'll be able to show you that. Well, you know what? Maybe we'll just go to that right now since it's fresh on the mind. So 1.2.11, that's line 54. Utilities and public service action item 1.2.1 or 0.11. Facilitate an annual public presentation in the fall at the end of the harvest season by the Department of Agriculture and Food for the water optimization program. So that's something that was news to me. I mean, maybe if you're a farmer and you're familiar with water optimization program, there's some funding that is available for converting these watering techniques. There's $500,000 for an individual, and then $1 million that's available for a water entity. So these are funds that could be grabbed up, could be utilized for Western Weaver. So
$1 million per entity per year.
$1 million for an entity, yes.
Not pretty,
I don't
just a
know.
one-time conversion.
A one-time, yeah.
I think it's probably a one-time deal.
But a lot of
What
that
if your
education,
gift cycle would be longer than the million you paid. You have to be able to apply it 2 times.
Yeah, yeah.
I think the part of their education too is helping people see how to, if they can reduce their water usage, then they can sell the excess water rights, and that also pays for the conversion and then some, and I think that's part of their education program too.
Where does that money come from?
That's a good question. I'm not totally sure.
I think
The state or feds or?
I think it all came from the state of Great Salt Lake,
Yeah.
is where it came from. I think it came from the state. It may have come some from federal.
All I know is they took our water. They took the Bear River water, which has been slated to go to Weaver County forever, and run it right by us at Salt Lake. That's not right.
Nope.
Okay. So let's go on to page, let's see, 157. Oh, yes, so that'll be line 26, and where it mentions that there would be some added actions. So now we're getting into the actions where the actions portion. So the remaining of these amendments would be relegated to the actions of this chapter. So line number 27. You'll notice 1.2.1 on page 157. We would be adding a little bit of language. Cooperate and collaborate with the state of Utah, the Department of Agriculture and Food, and Weaver Basin Water Conservancy District to achieve regional and state conservation goals. Moving on to line 30, which coincides with 1.2.2. Require waterwise education signage with subdivision improvement plans. Waterwise education signage will be posted throughout the development. And posted, I'm on line 32, posted above sinks in public restrooms and other facilities managed by the Public Parks District for the year 2025 going forward. Okay, line 34, which would be an amendment to 1.2.3. And I'm just gonna mention this, in this case, we would just be looking to add some time frames. As recommended by the Department of Water Resources. All of these actions will not have time frames in them. But I think the ones that I think are very actionable, I put time frames in those that I'd like to work on.
Felix,
Yes.
sorry, not to get you far off track, but like these water wise, the signage.
Yes.
Are those already developed? Do we know what those are? Like, are they? The reason why I ask is I think about going to these new developments and you see the, what is it, the SWPPP, whatever it is.
Swift.
Yeah, and for most people, you don't know what that means, right? And it's kind of like.
Well, I know.
Well, yeah, because you're in that.
But otherwise,
Like,
I don't.
what is that big sign for? It doesn't mean, like, I guess my question is, are we gonna make sure these water wise signages? Like, and it makes it so that people understand what the hell is like.
I think that's a good point.
You mean?
Or otherwise, it's just a waste of money.
Before they purchase or what?
Yeah, like, there's like, what does that entail, like? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, education is huge especially for maybe new residents who are familiar. Even bringing up younger kids, with the understanding that water conservation is important. So if we can have the signage that I kind of envisioned was something that's very simple and really just, something that could maybe be a part of a slogan, like kind of like slow the flow, but similar to something like that. And then just have a couple of key points to say, here's how we slow the flow or something.
I agree with Casey, like if you put whip on something that the general public is reading, they don't understand what that means. There's so many acronyms in this world. We talked about this.
Yeah.
And like normal person doesn't know what the ovals mean. So it's gotta be something that someone can look at and really quickly connect in their brain. Oh, I should shut the water off while I'm
Okay.
Not slow the flow down.
Let's add that language specifically so that the action item says that we will make sure that the signage is usable and understandable by the common person,
Okay, perfect.
the commoners.
Then that's make it even more common than Charlie's comment.
English, and country one.
So. We're gonna write it.
Oh, yeah?
We drink from the hose, we wash our hands in the hose. Hi.
Conserving. You don't blush.
You're in a hurry to play. You can't stop to go and get a glass of water. You gotta just hurry. Get it done. Anyway. Okay, going on to, okay. I think we're looking at lines 34 through 42. We can see that I just added some timelines in there. And skipping down to line 43. This would be a brand new action from here on down. The Weber County Planning Division will provide support and enforcement of waterwise landscaping that is directed by the districts for commercial and residential development.
Now we're getting to where the water saving.
So we're in enforcement,
We
that's
work
all we
on these
need.
things, right? I swear we've been over that, so we're already doing it, right, basically.
We're doing most of it through implementation, development agreements, stuff like that, but when it comes to actually being the grass and leaves. Not doing as well on that. In fact, if you go through Taylor Lane subdivision, you see front yards that are wall to wall grass. And they should not be, because the new standards would apply to those.
But we've worked on those standards on our work sessions for we vote.
Yep.
But, and it leads to the unfortunate. Person that was here tonight that feels like because their secondary water got shut off. That, all their yard is dying. Well, it didn't get just shut off, it got shut off altogether. Upper irrigation shut down because the water had hit its use. They had taken their acre feet of storage water and that was the end of it.
I was refraining, but I was gonna say, I haven't had my sprinklers on for almost 2 months now, my grass is as green as it's ever been, so we've had plenty of rain.
We had,
So, yeah.
That's still a good thing.
So, but this is where the water savings is on the outdoor. The indoor use, yeah, it's great. We all need to be conscious of it because maybe that carries over to the outdoor portion. Outdoor water is where the water goes.
So you require lot 3 enough, they can all just go outside.
There you go.
Go back to the outhouse.
I think you saw.
And who says they don't?
That's why the river's that color, huh, Jack?
All right.
I just learned a lot about you.
Okay, so line 46, utilities and public services, okay, sorry, amend the county site design review ordinance. To adopt low water use landscape standards that will provide water savings that are 50% greater than what is planned in the Weber Basin Water Conservancy District. Or the state of Utah Water Conservation Plan.
We're gonna try and be better.
That's a huge,
It is huge, that's a huge chunk.
Big difference.
but is that going to be, I worry about not having trees. I think trees are worth the water and they actually save the evaporation.
Yeah.
So I get a little nervous when we get too aggressive on the savings because then we lose trees and then we end up in this heat.
Yeah, so Weber Basin, their goal, even at their desired 50% saving, still anticipates grass. They just don't think that the community will change their minds.
You're right, it is pretty liberal, so.
So, yeah, so if we look at that and we try and cut it in half through regulation, but also through encouragement, through development agreements and whatnot, we will still have, we have to have, I agree with you, we have to have enough irrigation water to make sure that the plants can stay alive. But if we were to cut out overhead sprinkling and just it all drip, I think we go really far with that. One thing that we added into the the Loman View Development Agreement after you guys saw it. You guys had recommended water-wise landscape standards. We didn't specify exactly what that was. When we got down to brass tacks, I just asked them, are you willing to cut what they're requiring right now? What Weber Basin Conservation District is requiring for a 1/4 acre lot, are you willing to cut that in half? And they said, easy. I said, okay, how are we gonna enforce it? They said, we will have a private architect design every yard. And so when the building comes in, it'll come in with a design from a private architect who has certified that the yard has been designed and the sprinkler system has designed with specific emitters for the plant type, so the plants stay alive, and he will be able to calculate exactly how much water is coming out of those emitters.
Which group was that, Charlie?
This was the Loman View subdivision, so this was Heritage. Heritage volunteered to do that, which we actually were kind of going in a different direction with them, and they said, no, we'd rather do it this way. I said, that seems like it's a lot more regulation, and they said, no, we're okay with that. It's okay, well, we gotta have a way that it's easy for staff to deal with this, because we can't be doing all those calculations for every development. So
Yeah.
and stamp it by an architect, and as long as the architect certifies it's their license on the line, as long as they certify that they've done it correctly, we move it on.
And then they put it in there like the restricted governance, huh?
Yes, and the restricted covenants, I think is gonna be really important.
And that's it, just is the enforcement part of it, but also that the people who live there understand. And don't start, doing other things.
Digging things up and doing something
Yeah.
different, yep, and that's the hard part, that's the hardest part. Yep.
Anyway, perfect, right?
Okay. Line 49. Continue to support the county's existing regulation that limits the use of water thirsty per floor law. 51. Consider regulation and incentives to reduce the use of sprinkler heads and support irrigation systems that are best adapted to provide the optimal amount for the types of plants being irrigated and the land area being irrigated.
Hey Felix, would you mind changing optimal to necessary?
Yeah. Alright, line 54, facilitate an annual public, oh, okay, we already covered that one. Line 58, this would be an objective, a new objective. The county will continue to support its existing ordinance that adequate water supplies and facilities are in place and operational prior to the issuance of building permits for all new subdivisions and will extend the same to the site design review process.
And that's talking just about, not the lots. Water supply, that's talking about the infrastructure of the community.
For that development.
Because legally, they took away our right to them.
Well, they did, but we can still do it through development agreement.
Oh, true.
Okay, 61, conduct mapping projects for each water providing entity to pinpoint areas of antiquated facilities and equipment, starting in the spring of 2026 and going forward. 64, conduct a mapping project that specifies zones of historical water rights, starting in the spring of 2006 and going forward. Okay. 66, provide support to the culinary, secondary, and irrigation water companies to seek out and apply for grants to fund the repairs, replacements, and upgrades to antiquated facilities.
Does that mean you with various documents?
Yes, we would assist in seeking out grants and applying for grants, but I mean, that might be a lofty goal for the planning staff as is, but I mean, if opportunity arises, I think we could definitely assist in that process.
Yeah, support has a pretty broad.
Oh, I know, those things are really complicated. I don't know if you ever tried to do anything out that comes from the feds, you get money. Always.
Yeah. So support could be anything from, we support you in doing this, or we won't stand in your way. Trying to do this. That's support. Yeah, that's right. It could be anything from that all the way to, we'll fill the application out for you, so, yeah, pretty broad.
Okay.
And the mapping, I assume, is pretty broad too. You're just gonna ask the water district what kind of infrastructure they have and where their problems are, and then compile all of the Weber County information into a map. Is that kind of the idea?
That's the idea.
Like GIS or just regular?
GIS,
Okay.
yeah, GIS. We get a GIS team involved in that.
Okay, line 69, organize and distribute contact information from district representatives to encourage cooperation across the various public utility service entities every 4 months, starting in April 2026. 72, cooperation between the county planning staff and the water entities for the water conservation elements included with each development agreement. Line 74, avoid unnecessary water evaporation of ponds, pools, and other sources of open water.
That mean?
That's something that comes from the Senate bill, and I'm still trying to kind of wrap my head around covering how that would be.
Put a cover on it.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe we need to be a little more specific, because yeah, I still was maybe add some information about some verbiage about covering or
maybe avoid unnecessary evaporation or evapotranspiration that covering or something like that, yeah.
So maybe.
Avoid unnecessary water evaporation.
Well, and I think what
Oh,
happens.
it does that.
On a lot of this irrigation.
We're trying to say it covered, right?
Is if there,
By some-
if we have canals and ditches and stuff that are unlined, now not necessarily covered, I think you lose way more water if there's something that's not lined than you do through evaporation. And to your point, Sarah, like the trees, I mean, a little bit of evaporation without water is probably not the worst thing in the world. You know, they put a little bit of moisture in the air. But one guy's pity.
Well, so yeah, those trees that we're trying to help protect, they are a leading sucker of those waters. The evapotranspiration is a big deal, but it's also important for our local climate and areas, so yeah.
And how would you, like, if you had an irrigation pond, would you really cover it? I mean, I can't imagine covering your irrigation.
So, you know, it's interesting, on the canals and stuff, what they talk about doing is to cover them, is putting the solar panels over the top of them.
Oh,
Now, I don't know if that's a local thing or, you know, like a major ag area thing, you know, then what they would do is take that power that's generated and run the pumps along that canal system. So, you know, there's some good ideas out there that can be done, but you gotta be in a much bigger area. As far as that kind of thing goes, than what we.
And the more we pipe the canals, the less evaporation, and the more we develop, the more.
The flip side, down at that conference this week, at the ballpark thing, they talked about how they're daylighting all the creeks.
Yeah, daylighting all the
You know,
storm water,
yeah.
so we can enjoy some.
Yeah, and I mean, they're gonna make it all pretty and make a sidewalk and benches and then it's okay, so I mean, like.
Irrigation ponds, the ballpark daylight, yes.
Yeah, you're getting it now.
So this is something the state says we have to put in.
It is, yeah.
She's
Well,
there.
state-
She made it. It's kind of like being in Las Vegas and watching the fountains at the beach. You're right. In the desert. Really?
But
And knowing it's out of water.
how much water we lose in other aspects. Maybe we'll just focus on everything else.
Yes.
This is are the most productive.
Felix, I do have a question on line 69 though.
Okay.
It says organize and distribute information. Who are we distributing that to?
So this would be to the representatives,
Okay, organize and distribute information of district representatives.
because they,
Oh, to them, so they cooperate together.
Public
Okay,
utility.
thanks.
yeah, I mean, it's almost like leading a horse to water, but. If they have the information and it's readily accessible and it's updated regularly, it's good information. I mean, I think it could come in handy.
Well, kind of interesting. Sorry, I'm new, just give me a moment.
Go.
So I attended all the meetings Felix had, this Wayne and I went, and then. We represented the planning commission, but then I'm also on the Taylor West Weaver Water District Board. And so, but we had Brand there representing Taylor West Weaver and Ryan Rogers. We also had Bola Vista and Weaver Basin was there represented, they all showed up. Anyway, we had good representation on culinary water. We hardly had anybody there on where the water use really is on the irrigation side. And it was kind of sad, and we did the best we could to fill in those gaps and provide information best as we could, but it didn't, so what line 69 says is a little bit unfulfilled at the moment,
Well, yeah,
unfortunately.
I was just reading about, is there any distribute that to the citizens or who I wasn't reading, this, I can never.
Utility.
Well, the canal companies, they come up with one of my favorites, 1,000 reasons not to do it.
Yeah.
Instead of the one you can. And it's a little disheartening because Warren Irrigation, we have water. I mean, we got the best water there is.
Right.
And you go along our canal and most of the borrow pits are full because the rats is ate through the bank.
The canal leaks, yeah.
And we only do anything about it when bank's ready to go.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's a dirt canal, been there since the early 1900s. So, you know, and then another comment, I think if we really want to cut down use, I think everybody now has to have metered water at their houses.
We're not quite there yet.
Right, but when they get,
Yeah.
okay,
That's the
and
idea.
they go over a certain amount, what you do is you nail them right here.
Oh, yeah.
And that'll educate an American about as fast as they can. And so to me, there needs to be, well, you know,
You know, it educates them even more, just shutting it off, not allowing them to get.
well, if you don't get.
There's some people that don't want, but it doesn't matter, you know, you got Uncle Jed, he's gonna water whatever he wants.
There are two.
I got his with Jesse.
Put it out. Make everything free.
And then I feel good.
I think that'll work for most people. I've been shocked because I have to look at like different water rates and things, and I've seen residents who have to irrigate with culinary water who will spend $1,500 to $2,000 a month on culinary water for their land. Or, and then when the city tries to talk to them, like, actually I have an ordinance, we can't do that even if we want to, they're like, that's just what it, that's just what it.
Well, now, to expand on that a little bit, interestingly, the conversation that comes from Weaver Basin is. They don't feel like it's necessary to continue to put in a second
system for a second.
I like that.
I like that idea
You
too.
don't want to go just to one provider.
Yeah.
which
It's
makes sense.
metered already.
It's already metered.
It'll actually increase our fire protection too, because then we'll be storing more water that goes to our fire flow, and so. It is more expensive to do all that facility to store it, but as I've looked at it, you have to do a totally different secondary water system and maintain a separate system, so I think it's a great idea.
And I hope they have mercy though on the cost of that water for outdoor use, at least as long as there's water to use
Yeah.
for outdoor use. Because it could get really
We're
expensive
not
anyway.
doing fluoride anymore, so.
It's top of mind for sure, I mean, with the amount of development coming through to Western New Group, so. All good comments, thank you guys. That last line, so the last one here, line 76, so cooperate with water entities to create means for land development in areas that do not have historical water rights through the use of restrictive covenants and water service agreements. So this one comes into play that some preliminary water providers, they require secondary water. Some of the water providers are a little more lenient in some respect. They say, well, we'll give you culinary water, but you can't use it for outdoor watering. And in which case, that's where the landscape restrictive covenant comes into play. And a water service agreement. So if the owner is willing to, basically have all natural outside vegetation that needs zero water. I mean, it's really up to the district if they're going to serve that property.
And I think most of the culinary water providers won't allow it because there's no enforcement done, and so the home gets built and they're like, we're not gonna use the culinary water, and then they do.
Yeah.
They do, and so I don't know, a lot of the culinary water providers are like that.
So then you go back to what Wayne said, you start hitting them in the pocketbook for X, for
Yeah.
gallons used over norm.
And they'll probably, even if they're using their culinary outdoor, they're using less than someone else, so. Yeah.
Very well. You can take that extra money maybe and start doing some other meaningful things.
Yeah.
It'll also help influence leadership in those culinary water entities to realize that if they're gonna provide water, they need to provide water. Indoor and outdoor, because that's the only control they're gonna have to be able to control the whole story.
Right.
It's not a good practice to say, yeah, we'll give you water as long as somebody else that we have no control over does your outside water.
I think the hardest thing though is when they're looking at impact fees, they have a really hard time modeling what an impact fee looks like. Based on, and projecting the future water storage needs and distribution needs, and they don't know if it's gonna be secondary or not.
Yeah.
I think that's what stops them from doing it, is the predictability. And they're like, I can't get an impact fee, the impact fee has to be decided, and it can't be, oh, your impact fee is this if you water outside, or this if you water. It's really hard to do the impact fee that way.
Gotcha. If it was just single system, we'd probably be able to just assign gallons per day
Yes,
per.
yeah, what single system is easy, but when you do.
Yeah.
I'm like, I need these in those.
It would be really nice if we could just convince the existing systems to go single. But we have to figure out how all that secondary water. It goes.
Turn it from secondary water into culinary water.
Yeah.
And that's really simple. Because it's just a change of point of conversion. So technically, it's pretty easy to do. It's convincing the people that own that water on paper that that's what they're going to do.
Yep.
Well, good. Good work, guys.
So my mistake.
I told you we had a lot of work tonight, so.
Nice job.
Do you get all the input you needed from us?
I did, thank you.
That's good.
Charlie did a good job filling in for Rick.
Yeah.
And
Always miss not having him here.
and others.
And
We're adjourned.
We're adjourned?
Yeah.
End of recording.
Well, almost. Almost.